Chapter 391. Tutu roared. Qin Yu is eaten by me. Do you want to know where he is? He's right here. He slapped his belly, causing loud, thumping sounds to ring out. Ningling's mind was in chaos. She took a deep breath and suppressed her thoughts. If you tell me where Qin Yu is, I promise I won't attack you on my own initiative. With just you? Tutu sneered again and again. Wenren Dongyue revealed a look of surprise. He hesitated for a moment and said, Junior apprentice sister Ningling's tyrannical bloodline is the key to my immortal sex trip. If she agrees not to attack us on her own initiative, that is a great show of sincerity. You should grasp this opportunity. Tutu's complexion changed. With Wenren Dongyue's strength and status, he disdained lying about this or a matter. The immortal sect and demonic path occupied 10 spots, and their Titan race only had 7. If Ningling didn't attack them on her own initiative, the pressure on them would be greatly reduced. Tuba said in a low voice, Qin Yu is a human outsider. He entered the Holy Land with us, but just as we were about to arrive, he suddenly vanished from sight. So now, we have no idea where he went. Ningling cast a grateful glance at Wenren Dongyue. May I ask what he looks like? Tuba shook his head. In the eyes of our Titan race, you human outsiders are all similar in appearance. Oh, he has a head of gray hair. Ningling's eyes darkened. Gray hair? That shouldn't be Qin Yu. Could he be that fierce character that appeared on the ancient perishment decree? She bitterly smiled. After coming to the land of divinity and demons, only then did she realize how difficult it was to cultivate in the land of exiles. Qin Yu almost never had the chance to enter the land of divinity and demons. And even if he did come, it would be impossible for him to grow to the point where he had the qualifications to enter the infinite realm in such a short period of time. She had been overthinking things. Taking a deep breath, Ningling nodded in thanks. My promise is still valid. I won't attack the Titan race on my own initiative. She turned and returned to the immortal sect cultivators. The immortal sect cultivators all had strange expressions. They couldn't understand why this proud daughter of heaven with a divine bloodline, someone who was highly regarded by the immortal sect, someone who didn't respond to countless male disciples, would be so flustered by a single name. Moreover, it was Qin Yu, a name that everyone could tell was a man's name. There was too much information in this, and it was hard to not overthink it. Yu Bai's complexion darkened. When they were in the Qi Empire, he had already taken a liking to Ningling. But she had always maintained a cold demeanor, so Yu Bai wasn't too worried about this. After all, he had some fame amongst the younger generation of cultivators in the immortal sect. But after entering the infinite realm, he obtained news from the immortal sect. Ningling had been determined to possess the bloodline of God, and her status had risen by leaps and bounds. She was now an important existence comparable to several core disciples of the immortal sect. What left him even more startled, angry, and helpless was that Wenren Dongyue seemed to have some unspeakable goal towards Ningling. Yu Bai knew that the disparity between him and Wenren Dongyue was far too great. So great that he immediately put away all his thoughts and maintained a respectful distance from Ningling. But even though Yu Bai feared Wenren Dongyue, he was still arrogant towards others. Just who was this Qin Yu that he could move junior apprentice sister Ningling's heart? He didn't dare to say a single word about losing to Wenren Dongyue, but losing to someone else was something he couldn't tolerate. Yu Bai's heart hardened. All of the resentment he didn't dare to vent was completely transferred onto this person called Qin Yu. You better not let me meet you, Yu Bai roared inwardly. He also wanted to know what Wenren Dongyue was feeling right now. But as he looked at him, he was still calm, as if he hadn't been moved at all. Tuba nodded. He swept his eyes around. Each of you choose 5 people and follow us. He turned and communicated with the Titan warriors. Soon, he came up with a list of 7. The strongest Titan warriors were certainly on this list. After all, the treasures of the Holy Land represented a chance for the continuation of their tribe. They had to do their best. The 5 from the immortal sect were Wenren Dongyue, Ningling, the man surnamed Jing, the woman surnamed Ding, and a white-haired old man. The last one was clearly a protector. Besides Wuma Sijan, the other 5 from the demonic path were actually quadruplets. Their appearances were completely the same, and even their movements were synchronized. Their faces were as cold and callous as stone. Tuba took a deep breath. "Come with us," leaving behind everyone to wait. A group of 17 people stepped into the chess game of heaven and earth. But after several steps, their figures vanished from sight. The 500th, Undying, revealed a distressed expression. He had been forced to use the copper mirror's soul-setting divine light in order to stab the 100 nether sword into the underworld guard's body and kill it. This was clearly an illusory object condensed from the black fog, but when the 100 nether sword pierced through it, it emitted a sound like it was piercing through dozens of thick cowhide. It was clearly difficult to do so. From this, it could be seen that the body of the underworld guard had reached an inconceivable boundary. Qin Yu had a premonition that even if he exploded with the power of the burning heavens, he still might not be able to kill an underworld guard. It had become far too terrifying. Luckily, at this time, the speed at which the underworld guards appeared had greatly decreased. Thinking about it, condensing such a terrifying underworld guard was a tremendous burden on the black fog. A moment later, the black fog began to churn, and another underworld guard walked out. It was very different from the previous underworld guards. It wore a sealed visor that only revealed a pair of deep purple eyes. It wore a gorgeous purple full-body armor, and its body was not bulky or bulky. Instead, it gave off a slender feeling. It held a long sword in its hands. The sword blade was inlaid with 7 black crystals. Faint traces of light circulated around it, releasing an aura that left one's heart racing. Undying cried out, "Underworld, great commander!" He lifted his hand, and the copper mirror flashed. The soul-setting divine light howled out. This strange copper mirror spirit treasure's power rose dramatically in his hands. Even after using it dozens of times, it was still able to move. But this time, the invincible soul-setting divine light was cut apart by a single sword strike. The underworld great commander's deep purple eyes revealed a strange light. He swept his eyes around and began to speak. "I wonder which supreme being has summoned my projection here." His voice carried with it a terrifying vibration that could penetrate all obstacles and resound throughout the arena. Shua, the black-clothed old man's phantom, appeared. Without expression, he said, "Complete your duty. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask." The underworld great commander's purple eyes brightened. "This is only a stiff projection. It seems that the master of this place has already perished in the endless river of time." He paused for a moment and then let out a deep chuckle. "Don't you know that summoning the underworld great commander requires sufficient compensation? Your master has already died, so who else can stop me? Then those two? No, I can smell the scent of 3 souls. One is young and fresh. One is so delicious that it makes me tremble, and the last one makes me feel disgusted. But I am most interested in this disgusted soul. I will have these 3 souls serve as my underworld great commander, Long Adonai Kutcha, as sacrifices to descend into this world." The black-haired old man's phantom roared out, "Evil creature, cease your insolence." He lifted a hand, and countless runes appeared in the skies above the arena. The underworld great commander coldly coughed. "If your master were to activate it, this array formation would be enough to instantly erase me. But with just a puppet projection like you, break for me." With a loud shout, he raised the sword in his hand, and the black cage instantly shattered. The dark gray sword light that represented endless despair and death fell into the runes, causing them to rapidly collapse and fade away. The black-haired old man's eyes widened in anger. It seemed as if it wanted to say something, but the underworld great commander casually smashed it apart with a palm. Qin Yu's head was still dizzy. The underworld great commander's voice just now had caused his soul to shake, making him feel as if he would explode at any moment. Now that he was barely able to recover, he saw the scene in front of him. The host of the test had actually been killed. Had he gone too far and finally lost control? He had said that he would end things once he admitted defeat, but was that still useful now? "I admit defeat." As he thought, There was no movement at all. The underworld great commander stepped forwards. What an interesting boy. Your soul should be delicious, and I will definitely savor it. But right now, I have an even more important matter to attend to. Beneath the visor, a sharp light surged in his deep purple eyes. He stared at Undying. The smell on your body disgusts me, but I have no idea where this smell comes from. As the underworld great commander, this sort of matter leaves me surprised. If you can tell me where you came from, perhaps I can forgive you and bring you back to the underworld to become my personal guard. Undying was silent for several breaths of time. Then, he sneered, "There are many underworld great commanders, but I've never heard of your name before. You should be someone who was recently promoted. What is your relationship with one of the underworld's 3 dark moons, Long Aedenace Blackstream?" The underworld great commander paused, a dignified look in his eyes. He first bowed to express his respect, and then sincerely said, "I, Long Aedenace Kutcha, am a bloodline descendant of Ancestor Blackstream. 13,000 years ago, I successfully became an underworld great commander. Since you recognize my ancestor and also know many secrets of my underworld, you should be a powerhouse of this world. But why can't I sense the aura of your world?" Undying sneered. "You don't need to care about that. All you need to know is that I am not someone you can provoke. Now, screw off and return to the underworld. Otherwise, don't blame me for not giving face to an old friend of mine." Chenyu let out a long breath of relief. Although he was shocked by Undying's tone, looking at the situation, the underworld great commander was truly shaken. If he could extricate himself from this crisis, that would certainly be the best outcome. But at this time, he suddenly received a sound transmission from Undying. "Little master, things are really troublesome this time. In a moment, I will go all out. The woman in your soul space can no longer be relied on. Take care of yourself." Chenyu was startled. At this time, the underworld great commander reared back his head and laughed. "If you know the name of my ancestor, then that means you were once a formidable existence that touched upon the world. Unfortunately, the world has collapsed, and all that is left over is such a weak and frail existence. How pitiful! Rather than living such a lowly life, you might as well offer your soul that was once purified by the world to me. Become a part of my soul flame and open up my road to ascension." Chapter 392. Chenyu's field of vision darkened. Not only was he unable to see, but even his soul seemed to fall into an abyss of eternal darkness. In this darkness, time and space lost all meaning, and all of his strength was suppressed. Only the crescent purple moon above his soul was barely able to emit a faint purple light. This purple light allowed Chenyu's soul to move a little so that it wouldn't fall into complete stillness. However, this feeling of being able to move around but being unable to sense anything in the outside world only made one feel even more fear and despair. Just at this moment, little Ling's figure appeared in the dim purple light. Her complexion was increasingly pale, like a transparent sheet of paper. She gave off a feeling of weakness, as if she would collapse and dissipate with a gentle breeze. "Chenyu, my time is limited. Listen to what I have to say next. Although the underworld great commander is only a projection, he has already obtained the strength of the world. He is not someone that the current Undying can contend with. At most, he can last for a while. If you want to survive, you can only rely on yourself. I'll teach you a technique that can forcefully lock your own life force. Even if you activate the power of the burning heavens, your exhaustion will be greatly reduced. But you have to be clear about one thing. The blood, magic power, and lifespan consumed by the power of the burning heaven are not truly burned away. Instead, they're sacrificed to the demonic altar. What you're doing is equivalent to cheating, embezzling the power that should be sacrificed to it. Once the demonic altar notices this, it will definitely punish you. I will use my own slumber as the price to conceal the demon altar's perception of you. You do not need to feel guilty. After all, I am the main reason behind your current situation." After a pause, Spirity faintly smiled. "If you really want to help me, then you must become stronger as soon as possible. Only then can I borrow the strength of your soul to awaken sooner. Then goodbye, my little master." She flicked her finger, and a mass of light flew between Qin Yu's eyebrows. Then, her figure scattered into countless motes of light, vanishing from his soul space. At this moment, the connection between Qin Yu and her was nearly completely severed. Luckily, there was still a final trace of it that allowed him to determine that Spirity was still alive. Countless emotions tumbled in Qin Yu's heart. Finally, they turned into gratitude and guilt. He swore to himself that he would help Spirity wake up as soon as possible. He restrained his thoughts and focused all of his energy on the motes of light that Spirity had sent into his soul. A strange fluctuation spread out from this mode of light, instantly covering Qin Yu's entire soul. Then, endless information surged out, branding itself deep within Qin Yu's soul, becoming impossible to erase. This was a strange technique called spirit lock, to lock one's own spiritual essence so that it wouldn't scatter or escape, and that the heavens and earth couldn't seize it. Just the words "open the door" left Qin Yu shocked. Then his entire consciousness was immersed within. Within the arena, beneath the 7 black suns, Undying had turned into a phantom, wildly attacking the underworld great commander. The soul-burying flag behind him erupted with billowing black gas that wrapped around his body and turned into a dignified robe. There was an exquisite and lifelike ghost face on the front of the robe. The third eye between its eyebrows was closed, and a trace of blood could be vaguely seen. The underworld Grand Commander didn't move very quickly. However, every time he stabbed out with his sword, he lifted it up, and he slashed it out with shocking power. His terrifying aura was like a tempest, and wherever it swept out, the heavens would collapse and the earth would cave in. Undying didn't dare to face him head-on, but as he attacked more and more, the underworld great commander's aura grew stronger and stronger, like a demon god descending into the world. Suddenly, Undying's figure vanished. When he reappeared, he was near the underworld great commander's side. He lifted the 100 Nether Sword and thrust it out. The underworld great commander slashed out with his sword. The 100 Nether Sword collided with it and trembled. Then it shattered into countless pieces that howled in all directions. At this time, the third eye between Undying's eyebrows opened and a terrifying blood-red light gushed out. "Haha, I was waiting for this move of yours." The underworld great commander lifted a hand and pressed down. A black eye opened in his palm. It was pitch black, as if it were a vortex that led to another world. All of the terrifying blood-red light was swallowed up by the black eye in his palm. But its might surpassed his expectations. The underworld great commander stuffily coughed, and the purple flames in his eye dimmed. Blood flowed out from the black eye in his palm. But not only did he not become angry, but he instead roared out in excitement. "Such a weak strength can actually injure me. It seems that when you were at your peak in the past, you were far more formidable than I imagined. That's for the best. There must still be some clear traces of the world left in your soul, and you might even have opened up your own road. If I swallow your soul, there's an extremely high chance that I will obtain the turning point to advance." Undying shook his head, his voice a bit helpless. "I originally thought that after I escaped, I would have a chance to start new. But now, it seems that the inertia of this world is too strong. Those that should die will vanish forever." He paused for a moment, and then continued to say, "Little fellow, since you are Blackstream's bloodline descendant, and you have smoothly advanced to the position of Underworld Great Commander, did he not tell you not to underestimate any existence that has touched upon the world?" The purple flames in the Underworld Great Commander's eyes jumped, and a fierce sense of crisis shrouded his mind. He lifted the sword in front of him, and a hazy world phantom appeared, protecting him within. In the next moment, this world phantom violently shook. A dent appeared in it, and countless cracks began to rapidly spread outwards. Walala, the world phantom dispersed. The Underworld Great Commander cried out miserably. The purple flames in his eyes weakened to less than a tenth of their original brightness. They were incomparably dim and nearly extinguished. Undying maintained his pointing posture. He let out a long sigh, and his figure scattered, turning into a shadow that returned to Qin Yu's shadow. Just a little bit more, and you would have destroyed my projection in this world. But this little bit of difference is enough to cause you to die. The Underworld Great Commander's voice was low and icy cold. I will tear apart your souls and swallow them up bit by bit. With a step forwards, the Underworld Great Commander appeared in front of Qin Yu. He lifted his palm, and the black eyes in his palm opened once more. At this time, Qin Yu stomped his feet and stormed backwards. The Underworld Great Commander was startled. He sneered, "Little fellow, where can you possibly run to?" He lifted his hand and grasped out. Qin Yu froze in midair. Shua! Qin Yu's eyes flashed open. He roared out loud, "Soul lock!" Hum! In the void, millions of runes instantly condensed and howled into Qin Yu's body. At this time, all of his aura vanished from sight, as if he had been completely isolated from the outside world. Then, without hesitation, Qin Yu detonated the power of the burning heavens within his body. Dyed blood, burning magic, burning life. Bang! His aura wildly erupted, breaking apart the suppressive strength around him. He lifted a hand and pointed out a finger. Boundless blue finger. With a single finger, winds and clouds stirred. With a loud rumbling sound, a finger phantom descended from the heavens. It rapidly condensed, and its volume rapidly increased. In the blink of an eye, it reached 1,000 feet in size. The fingerprints on its surface were clearly visible, as if a demon god had attacked from the highest heavens. The Underworld Great Commander frowned. If he had just arrived, then even if he had been standing there, this strike wouldn't have been able to break through his defenses. But after being repeatedly wounded by Undying, and in particular the shattering of the World Phantom, this had caused tremendous damage to his projection. His strength was now less than 1/10 of its original state. Even so, it was impossible for this sort of inferior attack to cause any harm to the formidable Underworld Great Commander. He raised the sword in his hand, and black sword light cut out like a waterfall. The finger that descended from the heavens trembled and disintegrated. Qin Yu's face paled, but as the power of the burning heavens erupted, he instantly recovered. The Underworld Great Commander revealed a shocked expression. This was because he could clearly feel that the sword in his hand had been damaged. How was this possible? Even if it was only a projection, the sword still possessed an indestructible attribute. Undying's attacks just now hadn't been able to damage it in the slightest. But now, this puny ant in front of him had actually damaged his projection. Even the sword itself had been affected, and its might had weakened. Apart from shock and anger, there was also an incomparable heartache. It had to be known that this sword was a treasure personally bestowed upon him by the Blackstream ancestor after he became the great commander of the Netherworld. It was extremely precious, and even the slightest damage would require a great price to repair. How hateful! You lowly ant! You have angered the great Lord Ku Cha. I will leave behind a wisp of your soul and toss it into the underworld sea of purgatory flames to suffer for 10,000 years. But in a state where the power of the burning heavens was ignited, Qin Yu remained as calm as a machine. He wasn't affected at all. He lifted a hand and pointed out a finger. Blue spirit finger. Woo-woo, woo-woo. A cold wind stirred up in the void, and phantoms began to appear in the majestic arena. Some were the size of a normal person, and some are more than 300 meters tall. However, no matter what their shape was, each one of them contained a powerful aura. In particular, at the highest level of the arena, there was a massive stone throne. This phantom was 10,000 feet tall, and just by sitting there, it suppressed the entire space. The Underworld Great Commander screamed in anger, "Spirit summoning art, just who are you?" Qin Yu didn't reply. He expressionlessly pointed out a finger, and the phantom of a finger appeared. The countless phantoms in the arena trembled and turned into streams of air that rapidly poured into the finger. In the blink of an eye, the translucent phantoms of the fingers turned a deep gray, like the withered and dead vegetation in the middle of winter. An aura of annihilation, death, and destruction gushed out from the finger phantom. But this wasn't the end. On the stone throne, the 10,000-foot phantom suddenly stood up. It stepped through space and appeared on the blue spirit finger. A sharp light flashed in its dim eyes, and it emitted a deep, rumbling sound. A mere underworld great commander dares to be insolent in Teacher's palace? You're seeking death. With a step, the blue spirit finger fused into the finger phantom. The finger phantom wildly grew, reaching thousands of feet in the blink of an eye. Its color turned from a deep gray to a rich black, and there were even specks of blood red that appeared in the darkness. Bang! An endless and cruel aura erupted from the finger phantom. It instantly vanished and then reappeared, arriving right above the underworld great commander's head. The underworld great commander roared. A black crystal on the blade of his sword actually exploded on its own. Then, a terrifying aura of darkness covered him. A heaven-shaking and earth-shattering collision occurred. The entire arena trembled and countless cracks tore through the ground, extending all around the seats. The earth quaked. In just several breaths of time, the entire arena was reduced to ruins. The blue spirit finger vanished from sight, and the aura of darkness was nearly exhausted. The pitiful figure of the underworld great commander was revealed. It seemed as if it had been trampled upon by a pack of wild beasts. Its visor had long since disappeared, revealing an incomparably ugly face that looked like the fusion of a goat and a wild boar. The gorgeous purple armor on its body was now in tatters, revealing terrifying wounds. No matter how much darkness strength tumbled around it, it was unable to repair them. However, what the underworld great commander found the most difficult to accept was that one of the black crystals on the sword in its hand had actually exploded. There were even several small cracks that appeared on the blade of the sword where it had exploded. If it were only the destruction of its projection, the underworld great commander wouldn't care so much. But through its connection with its true body in the distant underworld, it discovered that one of the black crystals on its true sword had also exploded. The cracks on the blade were exactly the same. This attack, through the projection, directly attacked the sword in the underworld that was far away. If it weren't for the black crystals exploding, this strike might have caused terrifying damage to its true body. For the fastest and most error-free novel reading, please visit Chapter 393. When the underworld great commander looked at Chinyu, the purple flames in his eyes were filled with rage and dread. He thought about how Chinyu had the protection of undying and that there was another powerful soul hidden within his body. Could this humble ant in front of him be the reincarnation of some almighty being? However, the aura of his soul was very young and did not match the aura of a reincarnated body. Although he couldn't figure it out, the underworld great commander still leaned towards the first possibility. He believed that Chinyu was the reincarnation of a formidable existence. That was the only way to explain how he could unleash such terrifying power despite being so weak. A dark purple flame appeared in the underworld great commander's eyes. It erupted with endless greed. This sort of reincarnated body of supreme being had a complete mark of its previous life. If it could swallow it, there would be countless possibilities in the future. So what if the dark crystal was destroyed? Compared to a reincarnated soul of a powerful existence, it was not worth mentioning. Die! As he roared, the underworld great commander clenched his teeth and used a secret art. His main body in the underworld ignited a drop of god blood in his heart, forcefully crossing space and time to pour a formidable strength into this projection. All of the projection's injuries were instantly healed, and its aura became even stronger. The world projection descended once more, and it was even more solid than the first time. It rumbled as it circulated, releasing a powerful pressure. Chinyu's body stiffened. Every movement he made was incomparably difficult. As he moved his arms, his flesh, blood, and bones emitted pain groans. but his eyes were still as cold as ever, and there was not the slightest hint of emotion on his face. He pointed out the third finger, vast sea finger. With the appearance of this finger, the spirit-locking art instantly collapsed, and Qin Yu's cultivation rapidly fell. Within his Dantian sea, the five-element nascent souls cried out on the verge of collapse. His appearance rapidly aged, as if hundreds of years had passed in the blink of an eye. His body shriveled like a withered tree, as if all of his vitality had evaporated. This wasn't the sacrifice of the power of the burning heavens, but the price he had to pay to activate the third finger. There was no way to describe the scene after the third finger was pointed out, because it became incomparably huge in his field of vision, so huge that it occupied his entire vision. It was as if the entire world had become incomparably small in front of it, and could only be easily crushed by this one finger. It didn't seem fast, but as soon as it appeared, the blue sea finger landed on the world projection summoned by the underworld great commander. It howled in pain. The purple flames in its eye sockets revealed a hint of fear and disbelief. This was because the world projection was collapsing. And what was even more terrifying was that the underworld great commander could feel an extremely terrifying aura passing through his projection. It traced traces of space and time, rapidly transmitting towards the distant underworld. It was that kind of terrifying tracing attack. And this time, it was even more terrifying than the blue spirit finger. It was so terrifying that the underworld great commander was terrified. He was worried that his original body would be directly erased. His eyes widened as he stubbornly stared at Qin Yu, howling in his heart. Even if he was the reincarnation of an almighty being, how could he activate such a terrifying strength with such a weak cultivation? Bang! The phantom of the netherworld great commander collapsed. He ended his own projection to avoid being erased. The icy coldness in Qin Yu's eyes faded away like a falling tide. His body slumped, and he felt his knees. Pain and the aura of decay spread through his body, and he violently coughed. His eyes were filled with bitterness. The final strike broke even the spirit lock technique, instantly stealing away almost all of his vitality. It had to be known that he had already reached divine soul. In addition to his powerful king's step demon body, his lifespan far surpassed that of cultivators at his level. Living for 3,000 years wouldn't be a problem at all. In other words, every time he used the blue sea finger, he would lose 3,000 years of his lifespan. Compared to this, his blood vitality drying up and his nascent soul nearly collapsing could be called insignificant. Within the chess game of heaven and earth, there is a great deal of destruction and killing intent hidden within. It wasn't that the Titan warriors hadn't thought of finding a chance to escape from the immortal and demonic cultivators, or even sending them into a danger zone. But whether it was Wenren Donyue or Wuma Sijan, they were both calm and wise. Their sharp eyes seemed to be able to see through all lies and lies. After several moments of hesitation, Tuba gave up on the idea of playing any tricks. He winked at his tribesmen and honestly led the way. As the followers of the totem, they had the qualifications to pass through the chess game of heaven and earth. With the immortal and demonic cultivators borrowing strength, they were able to pass through unscathed. "We've arrived," Tuba said in a low voice. "We will awaken the Holy Land Messenger and open the entrance for us. Do not resist." He, Tutu, and the other two Titan warriors each took out a chess piece from their chest. Two were black and two were white. That's right, they were the smooth and round things that looked like small mounds on the ground. The four of them bit their fingertips and dripped their blood onto the chess piece. It was directly absorbed by the chess piece and emitted a black and white light. A figure appeared. If Qin Yu were here, he would discover that this was the projection of the black-haired old man who had opened the examination for him. However, this projection was even stiffer and its eyes were dim. By passing the chess game of heaven and earth, you have the qualifications to enter the core region. Originally, the projection should have directly opened the entrance once they arrived here. Tuba and the others had already been reminded of this by the great priest. But they discovered that the black-haired old man's projection seemed to freeze. His body shivered, and his dim eyes began to glaze over. It was clear that something wasn't right. "You had best not play any tricks," Wuma Sijan sneered, killing intent rising from his body. Tutu was flustered and exasperated. Who is playing tricks? We don't even know what's going on. Seeing the Titans, all anxious, Wunren Dongyue frowned. If there really was a problem, wouldn't this trip have been in vain? This time, the immortal sect disciples had gathered here. If they didn't obtain a great harvest, then they would have suffered a great loss when the infinite realm opened. Bang! A white chess piece suddenly exploded, turning into a beam of white light that fused into the black-haired old man's body. The aura he emitted rose, but it was clearly not enough. Following that, there were 3 loud bangs. Beneath the shocked eyes of the Titan warriors, the remaining 3 chess pieces all exploded, turning into light that was absorbed by the black-haired old man. He finally began to move. He lifted his hand and began to draw in the void, but each stroke was extremely difficult. The further he drew the rune, the slower his movements became. Even his body became transparent. It was clear he had consumed far too much strength. The Titans nearly cried. These 4 chess pieces were the holy objects of their tribe that the great priest had given them. They were the key to opening the gift of the totem. They had been passed down for countless generations and had always been used normally. But now, these 4 chess pieces had all exploded. How could they explain this to the great priest when they returned? Luckily, the black-haired old man's phantom managed to last until the rune was completed. Then, it submerged into space, and a large door appeared, opening on its own to reveal a long passage behind. Wuma Sijan's eyes brightened. "Choose one of you to enter first." Tuta didn't say a word. He was the first to step through the door. Everything was calm. "Let's go." Wunren Dongyue flicked his sleeves and led Ning Ling and the others through the door. Tutu and the other Titan warriors followed close behind. Wuma Sijan waved his hand. He brought the quadruplets of demonic path cultivators behind him. But just as the last demonic path cultivator stepped in, an invisible strength forced him to retreat. "Senior apprentice Brother Wuma, I cannot enter." The demonic path cultivator's face was filled with anger. Wuma Sijan roared out, "Titans, you dare to lie to me." Bang! A wild aura wildly erupted. Tuta's face was filled with shock. Impossible. The Holy Land has 17 spots to enter. This was already decided from the start. He hurriedly explained, "Since we brought you in, it is impossible for us to lie about something that can be easily seen through." Wunren Dongyue lightly said, "Wuma Sijan, the Titans shouldn't be lying." Wuma Sijan sneered. "That's good. One of the Titans can leave and allow my demonic path disciples to enter." Tutu shook his head. "That's impossible. Once we enter the core region, even if we leave now, the spot has already been used. It is impossible to give it to someone else." His complexion changed. He thought of a possibility and immediately revealed a look of anger. "There are 17 spots, and only 16 people can enter. Could it be that someone entered the core region before us?" Wunren Dongyue frowned. "Let's go." Shua, the 5 immortal sect cultivators flew straight to the end of the channel. Tutu clenched his teeth and roared, "Let's go." The 7 Titan warriors were depressed to the extreme. First, Qinyu had passed the test, and then the immortal and demonic path outsiders had entered. Now, there was actually someone who had entered the core region a step earlier than them. The chessboard of heaven and earth was inconceivably powerful. Even the great priest had said that it was impossible to force their way through. So how could someone have entered before them? Wuma Sijan's complexion was cloudy and uncertain. He could see that the Titans weren't lying. In other words, the reason that someone was left outside was purely because he had been too cautious and entered last. There was actually someone who entered before me. Interesting, truly interesting. His voice was calm, and he revealed a light smile. But the 3 demonic path cultivators beside him revealed looks of fear. Every time Senior Apprentice Brother Wuma had this sort of expression, someone would be unlucky, extremely unlucky. Shua, Wuma Sijan stepped forwards. His body turned into a phantom as he instantly overtook the Titans and chased after the immortal sect disciples. When 4 demonic path disciples joined forces, they could display an extremely fierce technique. But since only 3 of them had entered, it was useless. Wuma Sijan hurried alone, so his speed was naturally the fastest. He sneered as he chased after the 5 immortal sect disciples and rapidly fled into the distance. The female cultivator, surnamed Ding, anxiously said, "Senior apprentice Brother Wenrun, don't worry about us. Hurry and chase after them." Wenren Dongwen nodded. "All right, junior apprentice brothers and sisters, I'll be leaving first." Schwa. He left the group, and his speed instantly rose by several levels until he was on par with Wuma Sijan. He turned into 2 phantoms that vanished from sight. Old and decaying, Qin Yu's vitality was as weak as gossamer. He sat powerlessly in the ruins of the arena, waiting for the end of his life to arrive. There was only silence in his ears. He could clearly hear his incomparably difficult heartbeat. Every heartbeat consumed the last of his weak vitality. The shadow of death was unprecedentedly thick. It covered Qin Yu's mind. He didn't want to accept this result, but he was powerless to resist it. Life was like this. You never knew whether your choice would be a pleasant surprise or a disaster. Even though the disc was such a miraculous object, what it brought him in the end was death. And what was even more laughable was that in order to achieve this result, he had risked his life to rush through the Titan race's sacred lake. Then, he had done everything in his power to complete the test of killing the underworld guards. When Undying attacked, he had been incomparably happy. He thought that this was a wonderful result, and that completing the test would be incomparably easy. He had even begun to look forward to the rewards he would receive after passing. But now, even the one who issued the test had been killed by the underworld great commander. All of this had lost its meaning. As for him, he would be left here alone, waiting for death to arrive. This was truly a sad, sorrowful, and helpless ending. Qin Yu's lips twitched, and he bitterly smiled. But as he thought about how he had ended up like this, he couldn't help but spit out some, many vulgar word from the bottom of his heart. As for the incomparably powerful master who built this place, this young master is about to die, so why do I still need to fear your grandmother's leg? As if the power of his grandmother's leg was too great, the light in front of him wriggled with difficulty. Then, it condensed into the figure of a black-haired old man. He looked at Qin Yu, incomparably gratified. "You killed the underworld great commander and protected the dignity of the Holy Land. Qin Yu, you have done well. I must reward you. For the fastest and most accurate novel reading, please visit." Chapter 394. He was like a traveler on the verge of death in the desert. When he fell into despair, he suddenly turned around and discovered that there was a clear and sweet spring water beside him. To put it simply, happiness had come too suddenly. Qin Yu wasn't prepared at all. Then, all sorts of random thoughts in his mind were instantly tossed to the highest heavens. In particular, all of his disrespect towards the master of this island was cleanly buried away. Finally, he no longer had the strange thought of sitting up straight, even if he died, so that his future successors could see his tenacious will. He relaxed and laid down on his back. His chest rose and fell with difficulty as he panted. Although he was still in a terrible state, he was relaxed and filled with joy. This was because Qin Yu knew that he wouldn't die. The black-haired old man's phantom had a warm expression and a smile on his face. But Qin Yu knew that this was only a puppet projection. His current performance was a setting created by the person who created him. Although he didn't care much about it, his dull eyes still revealed a bit of anticipation. Your vitality is nearly exhausted. This is the result of forcefully stimulating a strength that surpasses your limits. Let me help you restore it first. The black-haired old man lifted a hand, and a jade box appeared in his hand. There is an eternal primordial fruit inside. It can help you restore all of your lifespan. Eat it. Qin Yu opened the jade box. A rich aura of life instantly submerged him. All the pores on his withered mortal body opened up, greedily absorbing it. He could clearly feel his vitality begin to recover. Just by taking in a few breaths of this aura, he could restore his vitality. The value of this eternal primordial fruit was likely unimaginable. At this point, Chinyu naturally didn't have any thoughts of keeping it for the future. He took several bites and ate the entire fruit. Bang! Like a dim flame that had been poured with boiling oil, Chinyu's vitality began to rise at a shocking speed. His saggy, shriveled skin, which was full of old-age spots, quickly became smooth and moist. His hair, which was as dry as weeds' withered hair that was like weeds, regained its elasticity once more. Even the gray hair that was caused by refining the revival good fortune pill turned pitch black. Surging blood energy erupted from his body. Compared to the beginning, it was several times stronger. Countless tiny runes appeared in Chinyu's blood. They flashed for a moment before turning into information that entered his soul. Demon Body Combat Skill, Choking Finger. When activated by the Demon Body, there was a 10% chance of ignoring all defenses and having an absolute defense-breaking attribute. There was also a 1% chance of triggering an instant kill attribute. Chinyu was dumbfounded. Not only had this fruit restored his vitality, but it also pushed his King Step Demon Body to small success and even awakened a Demon Body Combat Skill. A 10% chance of ignoring defense and a 1% chance of killing in a single strike. This was a heaven-defying and unimaginable method. It was truly worthy of being called the exclusive combat skill that could truly release the terrifying might of the demon body. For him to successfully awaken at small success of the King Step, although luck played a part, Chinyu felt that this was absolutely related to the eternal primordial fruit. And this wasn't the end. After the eternal primordial fruit completely restored Chinyu's lifespan, there was still a portion of its strength remaining that continued to strengthen his mortal body. He could clearly feel that his body was becoming stronger at a shocking speed. Within his bloodline, mysterious runes appeared once more. More information flowed into his mind. Demon Body Combat Technique, Strangling Finger, 2nd level. When activated by the demon body, there was a 30% chance of ignoring all defenses and having an absolute defense-breaking attribute. There was also a 5% chance of triggering an instant kill attribute. This was large success of the King Step Demon Body. Moreover, it was extremely heaven-defying. He had awakened a Demon Body Combat skill once more, and it just so happened to be the next level of the Strangling Finger. Chinyu was stunned for a moment before a look of wild joy appeared on his face. This should be what it meant when one survived a great calamity and was destined for good fortune. Moreover, he was sure that the reason he could continuously awaken a Demon Body Combat skill was because of the eternal primordial fruit. A single fruit had restored 3,000 years of life in just several breaths of time and had allowed his demon body to reach large success. Moreover, he had continuously awakened the Strangling Finger. This effect was simply heaven-defying to the point of unimaginable. There was still a small amount of the eternal primordial fruit's strength remaining. It was still able to help his mortal body transform, but unfortunately, it was just a bit short of breaking through to perfection of the King Step. Chinyu opened his eyes. He looked at the fruit core in his hand, feeling the rich vitality it emitted. He carefully took out a jade box and placed it inside before placing it in his storage ring. This thing might be useful in the future. The black-haired old man smiled. All right, your lifespan has been restored. I will continue to reward you. His eyes flashed. Not bad. You've actually formed a 5-element nascent soul and stepped onto the path of the 5 elements. This road is extremely bright, so let me lend you a helping hand. He lifted a hand and a sphere of light appeared. This technique should be the most suitable for you. If you can completely cultivate it and thoroughly master it, it shouldn't be difficult for you to touch upon the source of the world. With a flick of his finger, the sphere of light flew between Chinyu's eyebrows. In his mind, there was a loud rumble like a million bolts of thunder roaring. The phantom of a towering mountain appeared, and one could faintly see 5 nascent souls sitting cross-legged within it. At this time, they all opened their eyes and cupped their hands together. Greetings, fellow Taoist Chinyu. After a long time, Chinyu opened his eyes, his face filled with shock. The 5-element mountain was something that the master of this place had inadvertently killed an almighty being in his early years and obtained his soul to temper. This technique used the 5-element nascent souls as the foundation, and when combined with the rules of the 5 elements, its might could shake the heavens and earth. Although his head was dizzy and he had only seen the beginning, the vastness of the 5-element mountain still left Chinyu startled. If he could successfully cultivate the 5-element mountain, then he would be able to roll over all divine souls. If he could also perceive an invisible rule technique, then it wouldn't be difficult for him to jump ranks to fight. Of course, this was in a situation where Chinyu didn't use any other secret techniques that superimposed his combat strength. Indeed, after great danger came great harvests. Disregarding everything else, just this 5-element mountain alone was worth everything he had experienced so far. Many thanks for Senior's generosity. Although this was only a puppet phantom, Chinyu still cupped his hands together and bowed. Unfortunately, the puppet phantom was ultimately an inanimate object. Its smile didn't change in the least. It only nodded and continued to say, "Your merit in killing the underworld great commander is only enough to obtain these rewards. So, now I will calculate your completion rate for the underworld guard test." The black-clothed old man paused for a moment. He smiled and said, 501, including an underworld great commander. According to the rules, you have passed the test and obtained the qualifications to become an inner court disciple. Please wait a moment. He bowed. This subordinate is the underworld guard test officer. I have decided to bestow upon Chinyu the title of an inner court disciple. I asked my lord to make a decision. Seeing this, Chinyu's complexion became strange. When Undying attacked, this sort of request had already appeared. Without a doubt, there wouldn't be a response. According to the so-called tacit rules, his qualifications to become an inner court disciple should be set in stone. Chinyu's eyes brightened. After obtaining the eternal primordial fruit and the 5-element mountain, Chinyu felt a great deal of anticipation towards obtaining the qualifications to become an inner court disciple. But the script seemed a bit different from what he had imagined. After receiving no response, the black-haired old man waited for a long time. He revealed an awkward expression and continued to say, "My lord, are you dissatisfied with this decision?" But 501 underworld guards only meet the requirements to become an inner court disciple. There was still silence. The black-haired old man let out a deep sigh, his voice filled with helplessness. "It's fine. It seems that the junior participating in the test is the descendant of some great figure. Since that is the case, I will make an exception and bestow upon him the status of a true disciple. I ask my lord to make a decision." This was an absolutely unexpected result. Chinyu's eyes widened. As he looked at the black-haired old man who was putting on a monologue, his complexion became incomparably wonderful. But his heart was filled with ecstasy. The status of a true disciple was far more honorable than that of an inner court disciple, and the advantages one could obtain would be far greater. In fact, Chinyu couldn't help but feel an even greater anticipation. It had to be known that the master of this island and all of his subordinates had already perished in the endless river of time. The black-haired old man's request was doomed to not obtain a response. According to the logic that the black-haired old man was displaying right now, it was likely that he would obtain harvests that far surpassed his imagination. And indeed, after the black-haired old man made a concession and decided to bestow upon Chinyu the status of a true disciple, he still didn't obtain a response. This caused his body to shiver. With a solemn expression, he said, "My lord, in the Holy Land, a true disciple stands above all others and is incomparably honored. They have the qualifications to obtain the master's guidance. Are you still not satisfied?" He continued to remain silent. What nonsense! He was already dead. If he really spoke, that would be truly frightening. The black-haired old man took a deep breath. He coldly said, "I wonder which family's young man came from that he could actually cause my lord to disregard the rules like this. But the most I can bestow upon him is the status of a true disciple. Since my lord is not satisfied, then I can only report this matter and wait for the Holy Land's decision." He cupped his hands together. "May the inner hall elders decide this matter." There was no response. He cupped his hands together again. "May the 3 hall masters decide this matter." There was no response. The black-haired old man was shocked. He clenched his teeth and cupped his hands together a third time. He bowed deeply and said, "I ask the Vice Lord to make a divine decision. If there was an accompanying image, it should be a few crows cawing as they swaggered off." The black-haired old man couldn't believe it. In such an unreasonable matter, none of the high-level figures of the Holy Land had interfered. Even the Vice Lord, a supreme existence like him, chose to remain silent. He looked at Chinyu, a complex look in his eyes. Could this junior's status be so terrifying? After a long period of silence, the black-haired old man fell to his knees and respectfully kowtowed. "Master, this old servant needs your order." This completely different action caused Chinyu's heart to skip a beat. It was clear that the master the black-haired old man spoke of was the master of this place. Although there was an extremely high chance that the master of this place had already died, as an existence with unimaginably transcendent strength, who knew whether or not he had left behind some sort of backup plan. Chinyu was nervous to the extreme. His heart raced like a drum. Luckily, nothing had changed. The ruins still maintained their silence. It was fine. Ha ha! Chinyu laughed inwardly. He stared at the black-haired old man. He guessed that he had struck the jackpot this time. Chapter 395. The black-haired old man who thought he understood the truth wiped away a cold sweat that didn't exist. He crawled up from the ground and revealed a brilliant smile. "Little friend Chinyu, I was too negligent before. If I was disrespectful in any way, I ask that little friend not blame me." Chinyu's heart shook. He thought to himself that it was coming. But he revealed a blank expression. Senior, the black-haired old man revealed a knowing smile. "Little friend, there is no need to explain. I already know what to do." He turned and bowed. In the skies above the arena, countless runes appeared once more. Beneath the cover of these runes, everything that had been destroyed was restored to its original state at an astonishing speed. The black-clothed old man had a dignified expression. He slowly reached out a hand and grasped the void. All the runes erupted with radiant light. This light rapidly gathered together, forming a token. This token was pure black in color. There were patterns carved on the back and 2 strange runes on the front. A boundless aura spread out from the token, sweeping out in all directions. This aura was inconceivably powerful, as if it could suppress 1,000 mountains and 10,000 rivers. There was also a noble aura to it that left one in awe. The black-haired old man's phantom violently trembled. This action had clearly taken a tremendous toll on him. When the token finally condensed, his figure became even more illusory. "Little friend Chinyu, accept this token, and you will be the saint son of my 9-realm Holy Land. You will be the Lord served by trillions of quadrillions of lives, and you will have the qualifications to inherit the Holy Land's throne." Chinyu was frightened. Even though he already knew that his harvest would be amazing, he was still frightened by the black-haired old man. The 9-realm Holy Land's Highness, the Lord served by trillions of quadrillions of lives, the qualifications to inherit the Holy Land's throne. But he soon regained his composure. The master of the 9-realm Holy Land had already perished in the endless river of time, and all the powerhouses under him had been exterminated. This so-called highness was likely nothing more than a title. But even if it was only a title, as the Holy Land's Highness, shouldn't he obtain more than enough benefits? If he could kill the projection of an underworld great commander and obtain the eternal primordial fruit, the 5-element mountain, and be called Highness, then he would naturally obtain more. Shwa! The token flew towards him. Qin Yu grabbed it, and with a loud bang, the two strange runes on the token appeared in his mind. These two talismans expanded countless times in his mind. Shockingly, they were two mountains that emitted boundless golden light. Qin Yu, it was actually his name. Bang! The two runes exploded and countless motes of light rapidly spread outwards. In the end, they turned into countless vast, starry skies. A thin and small figure appeared in the starry sky. His back was slightly hunched, but as he stood there, it was as if billions of stars had to crawl before him. I, the Lord of Heaven of the Nine Realms, have dominated the heavens for billions of years. If you become my holy son, you will obtain endless good fortune. I hope you will cultivate well, so that one day you can transcend and live as long as the sun and the moon. The majestic voice carried with it a boundless majesty that seemed to resound through the entire universe. After saying that, the voice disappeared completely. After an unknown period of time, Qin Yu regained his composure. At some unknown time, he discovered that he was kneeling on the ground, his face filled with reverence and awe. Seeing Qin Yu wake up, the black-haired old man cupped his hands together and said, "This old servant greets your highness." Qin Yu stood up and said, "No need to be so polite. Stand up." The status token had already vanished from sight. With a thought, he could discover that it had fused into his body. But as for where exactly it was, he didn't know. Because it had already recognized him as its master, Qin Yu soon discovered the function of this token. His eyes brightened, and he revealed a look of ecstasy. He could roughly summarize the following points. First, by activating the token, with the status of a Holy Land Highness, one could freely enter over 90% of the Holy Land's territory. Second, by holding the token, one had the qualifications to command all members of the Holy Land below the rank of Elder and control 70% of the Guardian puppets. Third, as a Holy Land Highness in a life or death crisis, one could activate the protective strength within the token, enough to resist the attack of a world-class powerhouse. Fourth, as a Holy Land Highness, one had the qualifications to obtain a massive amount of cultivation resources. They could enjoy special privileges, have many followers, personal guards, and also a vast and boundless fiefdom. Qin Yu was extremely excited. He felt as if the land beneath his feet was now surnamed Qin. He lifted his hand, and the token condensed in his palm. With a thought, he was about to activate it. This was because only in an activated state could the token be truly used. Otherwise, it was nothing more than a dead object. There was no reaction. Qin Yu's complexion changed. He tried several more times, but there was no change to the token. "Senior, is my token broken? Why can't it be activated?" The black-haired old man respectfully said, "Your Highness, please call me Blacklake. This token was bestowed upon me by the Master, so it is impossible for it to be damaged. It is only because your cultivation is too low that you cannot meet the requirements to activate it." Qin Yu's face stiffened. He felt as if he were on a roller coaster ride, as if he were at the peak of his life, and in the next second he had fallen into the abyss, his life bleak and gloomy. With a bit of hope in his heart, he tried asking, "How much cultivation do I need?" As a result, the response he received left him wanting to curse out loud. This was what Blacklake said. "According to the world your highness comes from, after you reach the Calamity Immortal Realm, you should be able to meet the minimum requirements to activate the token." Seeing Qin Yu's face turn as black as iron, he hesitated for a moment and continued to say, "If you meet the minimum requirements, you can only activate the token for a short period of time. If you wish to completely activate it, your highness must reach the level of touching upon the world." Qin Yu clenched his teeth. He felt as if he had entered a mountain of treasure, but each gem was too large, and he couldn't even lift it. Good. If my cultivation is too low and I can't activate the token, then let's forget about that. Then I should be able to obtain quite a few cultivation resources, right? Blacklake smiled. "Of course. Your Highness's identity has been confirmed, so you will naturally be able to obtain the resources you deserve. Your Highness, please wait a moment." Qin Yu's heart relaxed. He quickly comforted himself. It was good that he had cultivation resources. After he refined them, his strength would surely rise several times over. This was a great fortune amidst misfortune. Black Lake lifted a hand, a smug expression on his face. As the highness of my nine-realm holy land, what I envy the most is the Kuan Pung wings. This treasure is harvested from the northern sea Kuan Pung. Its wings are used as the base material, and countless precious treasures are added as a supplement. After being personally refined by the master, you only need a drop of blood to completely refine it. Normally, the Kuan Pung wings are kept within your body and can be activated with a single movement. Even an existence that has touched upon the world might not have such speed. Qin Yu's heart shook as he listened. His eyes shined like stars. With the Kuan Pung wings in hand, what could the South Shine Nation's old ancestor count for? He could even disregard the strongest existences of the calamity immortal realm. With a single flap of his wings, who could possibly catch up to him? Seeing Qin Yu's excitement, Black Lake's expression became even more smug. But soon, his smile stiffened and he revealed a look of disbelief. After a long period of silence, he awkwardly said, "Your Highness, the storehouse is temporarily lacking the Kuan Pung wings. You might have to wait for some time." A basin of cold water was poured over Qin Yu's head. His smile slowly faded, becoming incomparably gloomy. Black Lake hurriedly said, "Your Highness, there is no need to worry. There are definitely Kuan Pung wings. We will only need you to wait for some time so that we can take the second treasure." He regained some of his composure. Netherworld Spear. Master personally entered the Nine Netherworld and fought with the Nine Nether great beasts condensed from the world source. He seized the water of the Nine Nether and combined it with extreme cold star iron to forge this spear. Although it is a mass-produced magic tool, the products produced by Master are all top-quality items. With this Netherworld Spear in hand, even a powerhouse that touched upon the world wouldn't dare to touch its edge. But soon his smile froze once more. Cough, cough. The Netherworld Spear is currently lacking in storage. But, Your Highness, there are many resources that can be allocated. We don't lack these two. Qin Yu's complexion paled. A foreboding premonition rose in his heart. Could it be that after the Nine-Realm Holy Land was destroyed, the entire storehouse was empty? Pre-celestial Tao embryo fruit. After swallowing it, one's mortal body can return to the Xiantian realm. One will have a talent comparable to a Xiantian life form, and their cultivation will increase by leaps and bounds, temporarily out of stock. Primal Chaos Indestructible Artifact. A strange treasure born from the primal chaos world. Born from the heavens and earth, it possesses an indestructible attribute. By refining it and fusing it into one's mortal body will become indestructible, out of stock, North Sea Ice Crystal Marrow. Activating the bloodline within the body, out of stock, Sun Moon Star Grass, out of stock. Black Lake's complexion gradually paled. There wasn't a single drop of sweat on him, but he repeatedly wiped his sweat away dozens of times. His voice became increasingly lacking in confidence. Out of stock. Out of stock. All out of stock. Qin Yu had a bitter expression. Indeed, in this world, there was nothing that was perfect. He had obtained the so-called status of His Highness Saint's son through trickery, but it was impossible for him to obtain these rare and unheard of treasures. He took a deep breath as he thought about how he shouldn't have obtained these things to begin with. Qin Yu felt much better, and his complexion gradually returned to normal. The resources that the Holy Land's Saint Son was qualified to obtain were all gone. Even though Black Lake was only a puppet projection, his face was filled with embarrassment. He coughed and said, "It seems that there has been an accident in the resource hall. Your Highness should be able to receive it after some time." Qin Yu shook his head, not speaking. He faintly guessed that the resource hall that Black Lake spoke of had likely been looted clean with the destruction of a Nine-Realm Holy Land. It was naturally impossible for any treasures to be left behind. At this time, Black Lake's eyes flashed. His originally empty eyes seemed to regain a bit of vigor. As the Holy Land's Highness, you have the qualifications to open the secret treasure pagoda and obtain a treasure from within. He lifted a hand and pointed in the void. The phantom of a pagoda appeared, rapidly spinning so that it was impossible to see it clearly. Your Highness, you can shout for it to stop at any time. Whatever you choose will naturally fly out. Qin no longer had any expectations for this. He glanced at it and casually said, "Stop." The pagoda phantom suddenly stopped. Then, a light flew out from within, shooting straight towards Qin. Qin was startled. Then, he revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. He hurriedly reached out and caught it. It was cool to the touch. When the light faded, Qin complexion turned a bit strange. How should he put it? This thing was soft and grayish-yellow in color. The feeling it gave off was like a lump of frozen snot. Chapter 396. Rest Loam. Blacklake cried out, his face shaking. Qin thoughts stirred. He subconsciously grasped it in his hand and said, "Blacklake, do you know what this is?" Blacklake nodded, envy in his eyes. "Your Highness has such amazing luck that you were actually able to choose this Rest Loam. According to what I know, even in the secret treasure pagoda filled with countless treasures, Rest Loam is ranked in the top 3 in value." Qin eyes brightened. "What is the use of Rest Loam?" Blacklake said, "The name Rest Loam was personally given by my master. In other places, it has other names. For instance, the source of the world, or even heaven mending divine earth. The origins of this object are extremely mysterious, and not even my master was able to investigate it. Its function is simple. With Rest Loam as the foundation, after a long period of time, one can condense a complete world. In addition, if the world is severely damaged, fusing with Rest Loam can repair the damage in a short period of time and make it even more solid. Condense a world. Disregarding everything else, just this point alone could be considered a rare treasure. But at this time, what Qin cared more about was its ability to repair worlds. To condense a world, one didn't need to be a genius to know that it had extremely high requirements for one's cultivation. With his mere divine soul level, he could only erupt with the blue sea realm. He was far from being able to do so. But because of the little blue lamp, he was now in complete control of a massive space far away in the void. It was just that this space had been severely damaged, and it would take a massive amount of time to repair. But with this Rest Loam, the speed at which this space was repaired would be greatly accelerated. The entire space would be restored to vitality in a short period of time. At that time, Qin's ideas about how to use this space would soon be realized. For instance, from the South Shine Nation's treasury, the set of spirit plant seeds that even the South Shine Nation's old ancestor felt distressed. The little blue lamp had turned into a great sun and planted them in the repaired space. Once these spirit plants broke out of their shells and germinated, their growth speed would be something to look forward to. Blacklake seemed to think of something. That's right, the Rest Loam has a special nature. It is strictly forbidden to come into contact with any Earth attribute objects. Otherwise, if it is directly fused into it, no one will be able to strip it away. He proudly said, "However, my 9-realm Holy Land storehouse has endless treasures. For instance, the primeval icebox. It is made from extremely cold ice that has been sealed for 1,000,000 years without being contaminated by yang energy. It is engraved with law runes, and the power of ice cannot scatter even after 10 million years. I brought one for your Highness, and it should be enough to hold the breath soil." He raised his hand and clenched it. His face, which was brimming with confidence, stiffened, revealing astonishment. Finally, it turned into awkwardness. This immemorial icebox, there was clearly a lot of it before. How come it was suddenly out of stock? Don't worry, we have countless treasures in our storehouse. Even if we don't have the icebox, we can still replace it with other treasures. As he spoke, he reached out a hand again. Qin hurriedly interrupted him. "There's no need for Blacklake. I'll condense an icebox myself and seal it with talismans to prevent it from melting. It should be enough for now." Blacklake drew back his hand, a look of praise on his face. Your Highness has such an honored status, and yet you are so frugal. You can even be called the model of my nine-realm holy land. If everyone else were like the Saint's son, I have no idea just how much we would be able to save on our daily expenses. Chinyu galvanized his magic power and condensed an ice box in his palm. Water and ice were connected, so this simple trick wasn't too difficult. He glanced over at Black Lake and sighed inwardly. It seemed that not only was he a puppet projection, but he had even lost his basic memory. It seemed that when the Holy Land was destroyed, he had also suffered tremendous damage. How pitiful. Soon, an icebox was condensed. Chinyu carefully placed the breath soil within and closed the lid. Then, he took out a sealing talisman and activated it with magic power. After making sure that the icebox wouldn't melt for some time, he placed it in his storage ring. At this time, Blacklake suddenly looked up towards the arena entrance. He smiled and said, "Your Highness Saint's son, another disciple has come to take the examination. Would you like to receive them so that they can admire your Highness's elegance?" Chinyu's complexion changed. Those that came were most likely Titan warriors. If they discovered that he had arrived a step ahead of them, there would surely be some unexpected twists and turns. His thoughts raced. Chinyu said, "I have important matters to attend to, so I won't see them. As for news that I have become the Saint's son, don't let anyone know for now." Blacklake smiled. "It seems that your Highness wants to cultivate in a low-key manner and then soar into the heavens in a single bound to shock the entire Holy Land. This old servant will wait and see." He smiled and cupped his hands together. "Then, this old servant will send your Highness away first." As he spoke, he lifted a finger and space rippled, submerging Chinyu's figure and causing him to vanish from sight. On the other side, in a long corridor, Wuma Sijan and Wenren Dongyue flew out one after the other, dragging a series of afterimages behind them. Their complexions changed. They frowned as they looked at the arena. Blacklake looked at them without expression. "Who are you? Why don't you have a token for my nine-realm holy land?" Wenren Dongyue cupped his hands together. "Greetings, Senior. This junior has admired the nine-realm holy land for many years. Today, I inadvertently came here in hopes that I can become a member of the Holy Land. I ask that Senior give me a chance." Wuma Sijan's complexion changed. The Immortal Sect seemed to know a great deal about this land beyond their realms. At the very least, the Demonic Sect had no idea what the nine-realm Holy Land was. But his thoughts raced. He respectfully said, "This junior is also the same. I ask Senior to help me." Blacklake's complexion relaxed a little. He swept his eyes over the two, his eyes brightening. "I never thought that your talents would be quite good." He paused for a moment, a helpless expression on his face. "It's just that I have used up too much strength today, so I cannot open the test for you again. Come again next time." "Senior, this junior came here through a lucky chance. If I miss today, I fear I won't have another chance. I ask Senior to show mercy," Wenren Dongyue hurriedly said. Blacklake's complexion sank. "I already said that the next time you come, there is no need to say anything more. Go." With a flick of his sleeves, space twisted and Wenren Dongyue and Wuma Sijan vanished from sight. In the next moment, the two appeared outside the entrance. The demonic path cultivator that was anxiously waiting here was startled. He hurriedly bowed. "Greetings, demon's son. Out of my way," Wuma Sijan roared. The demonic path cultivator cried out miserably as he was sent flying backwards. He spat out a mouthful of blood, his face filled with fear. Wenren Dongyue frowned. His complexion darkened and his aura was so cold that it left one trembling. Shwa, shwa. Figures appeared one after another from spatial fluctuations. Ning Ling and the other Immortal Sect cultivators, the three demonic path disciples, as well as Tuba and the other 6 Titan warriors. Now, all of them had blank looks on their faces. When they saw their surroundings, they immediately revealed looks of anger. The female cultivator, surnamed Ding, hurriedly said, "Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, what is going on here?" Wenren Dongyue took a deep breath and bitterly smiled. "There was an accident. I just entered when I was transmitted out." He barely managed to maintain a calm expression, but his heart was filled with unwillingness. This nine-realm Holy Land was originally his greatest lucky chance, but now it had been completely destroyed. As he thought about what the black-haired old man had said about how he had used up too much strength today, Wenrendonyue's eyes flashed. He faintly guessed what had happened. Wuma Sijan's body tumbled with killing intent. He suddenly punched out his fist. Billowing demonic energy erupted, condensing into many demonic faces that reared their heads back and roared. Wenrendonyue's lucky chance had been destroyed. His losses were equally astonishing, and perhaps even more serious. After all, the internal strife of the demonic path was far crueler than that of the immortal sect. Although he had a noble status, he was still bound to be implicated in the infinite realm. Damn it! Damn it! As the immortal sect and demonic path cultivators were enraged by the results of this trip, the despair of the Titan warriors far surpassed theirs. Without entering the core region of the Holy Land and obtaining the blessing of the totem, how could their tribe continue to survive? Perhaps they might even be destroyed before the next opening of the Holy Land. It's all because of you. Tutu roared out, his eyes filled with madness and despair. It's all because of you human outsiders that aroused the wrath of the totem, causing us to lose our chance to obtain the blessing. His eyes turned red, and the blood energy within his body rumbled out of control. I will kill you all. The ground cracked open. Tutu shot forwards like a bolt of lightning, hurtling towards a demonic path cultivator. His thick arms reached out, emitting the sound of breaking air. You are courting death. Wuma Sijan shouted out loud. His figure flashed, and he thrust out a palm. Tutu's tall and sturdy body violently trembled, and he was sent flying backwards. Massive masses of black, demonic energy wrapped around his body, rapidly corroding his flesh and blood and revealing his white bones. Tuba's complexion changed. He took off a bone pendant from his waist and placed it on his body, rapidly swallowing up the demonic energy. Across from him, Wuma Sijan was forced backwards, each step leaving a deep footprint in the ground. Blood tumbled in his chest, and his complexion darkened. Tuba, kill them all. Kill them all. The severely wounded Tutu roared out loud. He couldn't help but violently cough. The wounds that he had just managed to stop bleeding reopened once more, causing blood to gush out. Tuba tightly held onto his body, his face dark and gloomy. The Titan warriors beside him all began to breathe heavily. Wenrendonyue shook his head. Let's go. He took out a sleeve and flicked it out, opening up a space channel in front of him. He brought Ning Ling and the others with him and entered. The channel closed behind him. Wuma Sijan sneered. Let's go. This person took out a black demon bead. This bead exploded on its own, turning into a black lotus. As the lotus bloomed, it revealed that there was another space channel inside. Shwa, the demonic path cultivators, entered. The black lotus trembled and vanished from sight. Tuba, are we just going to watch helplessly as they escape? The hope of our tribe has been ruined by these damned human outsiders. Tutu angrily roared. Tuba clenched his teeth. I certainly know that these human outsiders deserve to die, but if we go all out, they will definitely join forces with us. At that time, we will all die. I don't fear death, but our tribe has fallen into a life or death crisis. We have to live. Only then will we have a chance to protect our people. Tutu's complexion stiffened. The grief and indignation in his heart increased. His vision darkened, and he fainted. Tuba picked him up and coldly said, Let's return to the tribe. He strode forwards, the 5 Titan warriors following behind him. No one spoke. The atmosphere was filled with sorrow and sorrow. At the entrance to the chessboard of heaven and earth, the immortal and demonic cultivators had already left. As for the remaining 9 Titan warriors, after they learned of what had happened, they all roared out in anger. Soon, a strange fluctuation arrived. The vanished air bubble appeared once more, wrapping around them and sending them rapidly flying into the skies. Deep within the incomparably vast island in the lake, Qin Yu's heart relaxed. He allowed the air bubble to wrap around him and soar into the skies. The moment the air bubble left the island, his thoughts stirred. He looked down at a palace where a massive number of cultivators had gathered. As he saw a slender figure, his eyes widened with excitement. But soon, the air bubble shot into the skies, and the island rapidly shrank. That figure finally vanished from his line of sight. Hashtag, 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 I really apologize for renovating the house yesterday. For the fastest and most error-free novel reading, visit Chapter 397. Qin Yu was incomparably anxious. But he was well aware that this bubble was incomparably firm. It was not something he could shake with his current strength. Qin Yu's eyes widened. It was only when his line of sight was blocked by the fog that he looked away. There was a bit of helplessness and disappointment on his face, but even more relief. Although the two of them hadn't met, and Ning Ling didn't even know that he had come to the land of divinity and demons, at least she was living a good life. Even if they couldn't meet today, there would still be opportunities in the future. Moreover, once they left the Nine-Realm Holy Land, they would return to the Infinite Realm without accident. Perhaps they would be able to meet there? Thinking of this, Qin Yu completely calmed down. He closed his eyes and began to meditate. After an unknown period of time, the bubble trembled. Qin Yu opened his eyes and discovered that the bubble he was in had torn open the world barrier once more. He had arrived in the void beyond. The 17 bubbles were very close to each other at this time. He could see through them and see the Titan warriors inside. In one of the bubbles was a giant named Tutu. His body was covered in blood, and he was unconscious. It was obvious that his injuries were severe. It seemed that these Titans had also encountered danger after entering the Nine-Realm Holy Land. At this time, Qin Yu frowned. This was because he discovered that even Tuba and the other Titans were coldly looking at him. Could it be that these giants knew that he had become the holy son of a holy land? But even if they knew this, the Titan race had a deep relationship with the Nine-Realm Holy Land. Surely they shouldn't have such a reaction, right? Before Qin Yu could think too much about it, the bubbles rapidly sank down and scattered. Although he couldn't see the Titan warrior clearly, his complexion became increasingly gloomy. Something must have happened that he didn't know about. Qin Yu was secretly anxious. They would soon return to the Titan tribe. If they weren't careful, there would be a great problem. His thoughts raced. He suddenly thought back to the many cultivators he saw with Ning Ling when the bubble flew out of the Nine-Realm Holy Land. The Infinite Realm had opened many times, but there had never been any news regarding the Nine-Realm Holy Land in the outside world. When the Titans first entered the Holy Land, it didn't seem as if they were facing a great enemy. Could it be that the immortal sect and the other cultivators had used some sort of method to forcefully enter the Nine-Realm Holy Land? Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He was a human outsider. Although he had nothing to do with the immortal sect, would these Titans believe him? He was afraid that he was now regarded as the main culprit of this incident. The more he thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Qin Yu was anxious because he was sure that the Titans wouldn't believe his explanation. As he thought back to the terrifying blood energy fluctuations he had felt in the Titan tribe, his complexion became increasingly ugly. The bubble fell faster and faster. After an unknown period of time, the clouds in front of Shi Yin suddenly disappeared, and a massive canyon appeared on the ground. Then he saw the giant tribe inside the canyon, and the black lake deep inside the tribe. The bubble burst on its own. Qin Yu flipped over and landed on the island. Human outsider, roaring, an enormous fist filled with a terrifying aura rumbled toward him from behind. There was no warning at all. Luckily, Qin Yu was already on guard. He took a step forward, and his figure held away, avoiding this brutal strike. Wait, I swear that I have nothing to do with those humans who entered the Holy Land. Otherwise, how could I possibly return here with you? Qin Yu shouted out loud. He looked at Tuba and said, "We've fought before. You should be well aware that my strength is completely different from those people." Tuba frowned, as if he were deep in thought. A Titan warrior roared out, "What nonsense! If you didn't know them, then how could the female cultivators of the immortal sect know your name?" As soon as these words were spoken, Tuba's complexion darkened. He took a step forwards and roared, "Give up! Resistance, otherwise die." 16 titans erupted their blood energy at the same time, causing space to tremble. Countless tiny cracks appeared, covering Chinyu like a giant net. Chinyu was stunned for a moment before he bitterly smiled. It seemed that these titans had already met Ningling. If so, he really wouldn't be able to explain himself. But it was impossible for Chinyu to allow himself to be captured without a fight. Once he fell into the hands of these furious titans, he could die at any moment. At this critical moment, a loud shout rang out, "Stop!" This voice was old, but it contained an indescribable strength. Every word seemed to weigh tens of thousands of genes, and as it fell into the ears of those who heard it, they instinctively felt awe. A figure flew over from a tribe. He stepped on the black lake, and every step he took caused tiny ripples to appear. But these ripples caused the entire sacred lake to gently tremble. Shua! Yu's eyes flashed. From far away, the old titan had already landed in front of him. He was much smaller than Tuba and the others, only a bit over 10 feet tall. His eyes were warm and bright, each one flowing with something called wisdom. But at this time, the old titan stared at Chinyu. His breathing gradually deepened and his eyes brightened with excitement. "Greetings, great priest." Tuba and the other titans quickly restrained their auras and bowed, their voices filled with absolute respect. The great priest coldly shouted, "You are far too bold. You dare to be so rude to my tribe's honored guest. Hurry up and apologize." Tuba and the others were left dumbfounded. They didn't know what the great priest meant. Their lips moved, but because of their faith in the great priest, they all bowed. "We ask honored guest to forgive us." Yu's thoughts raced, but he maintained his composure. The great priest smiled. "Honored guest is a great and magnanimous person. Please don't lower yourself to the level of juniors." As he spoke to Here, he revealed a look of anticipation. "I wonder if honored guest can show us his status token?" As he thought, the Titan race had an unusual relationship with the Nine-Realm Holy Land. Yu's heart relaxed. He knew he had passed this hurdle. He lifted his palm, and his palm flashed. A token appeared on its own. The great priest's gaze fell on him, and he stiffened. His eyes instinctively widened, and he cried out, "Saint's son." After several breaths of time, the great priest fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "The Titan race's 103rd great priest greets your Highness Saint's son. I knew that it was impossible for the Holy Land to abandon us people. They would definitely come to save us." Tuba and the others were frightened. They were only stunned for a moment before they had to bear the great priest's angry roar. "Evil creatures, hurry up and kneel. This is His Highness Saint's son of the Holy Land. His status is revered. How can you offend him?" He hesitated for a moment, and then said, "Your Highness Saint's son, these Titan Juniors have offended your dignity. According to the rules, they should be immediately executed and their souls thoroughly erased. If your Highness agrees, then this old servant will personally kill them." At this time, no one believed that the great priest had gone insane. Feeling the terrifying blood energy fluctuations coming from the great priest's old body, Tuba and the others paled. They could no longer maintain their bodies and fell to their knees. "Great priest, please spare us." The great priest's eyes twitched, but he didn't even glance at them. "I ask your Highness Saint's son to give the order." It seemed that as long as Chinyu nodded, he would kill Tuba and the others without hesitation. The Titan that attacked Chinyu was pale, and his body shivered. Chinyu never thought that the status of the Nine-Realm Holy Land Saint's son would have such a great deterrent effect. Although the great priest appeared respectful and subservient, he was well aware just what sort of terrifying strength was hidden within his seemingly old body. The Nine-Realm Holy Land had already been destroyed, and all that was left of his status as the Saint's son was a title. If he really didn't forgive him, who knew whether or not this old fellow would turn hostile? Moreover, he hadn't suffered any losses at all. All of these thoughts flashed past Yu's mind. He put away the token and lightly said, The ignorant are not guilty. Forgive them. The great priest relaxed. He turned and shouted, "Did you hear that? Hurry up and thank His Highness Saint Sun for showing mercy." Tuba and the other Titans didn't dare to say anything else. They kowtowed. "Thank you, Your Highness Saint Sun." Although they still didn't know how this human outsider in front of them had become the Saint Sun in the blink of an eye. As for this so-called Saint Sun, just what was he? At this time, there was a pitiful cry. After the bubble burst, Tuba, who had been placed on the ground, opened his eyes and roared in pain. On the surface of his body, the barely healed wounds began to split open. His flesh and blood began to turn black and rot, emitting a thick stench. "This is bad. Tutu's injuries have erupted. Great priest, please save him," Tuba anxiously said. The great priest's figure moved, and then he came to a sudden stop. He looked over. Chinyu waved his hand. Then his figure flashed, and he arrived at Tutu's side, placing a hand on his body. This speed left Chinyu startled. If the great priest had any ill intentions, there would have been no way for him to dodge. Bang! A powerful aura fluctuated, turning into a blood-red light that covered Tutu's body. Soon, the great priest opened his eyes, revealing a gloomy expression. What a terrifying, corrosive, demonic power. Whether or not he can survive will depend on Tutu's luck. He stepped forwards, and the ground split open, leading deep into the island. Then, there was the sound of trickling water, and a pool of clear water rose up from the depths of the island. Chinyu's eyes brightened. This was because he discovered that the strength emitted by this spring water was the cooling aura that had healed his wounds after he passed the test of the sacred lake. Although his demon body had reached large success, if he could absorb this spring water, he would definitely be able to take another step further. In particular, what surprised Chinyu was that there was actually a lotus root growing in this clear spring water. Moreover, this lotus root had clearly just sprouted. As soon as Chinyu saw it, he couldn't help but feel a strong sense of hunger. It made him want to directly eat this lotus root. Chinyu's intuition told him that the spring water had the ability to strengthen the mortal body, and this lotus root was the key. The great priest lifted a hand, and the spring water flew out, wrapping around Tutu. The horrifying wounds on his body rapidly healed, and his flesh and blood began to regenerate. But the great priest didn't relax at all. Rather, his expression became increasingly dignified. Tutu roared out in pain. His healing wounds began to rapidly rupture and deteriorate even faster. In the blink of an eye, large tracts of his body began to rot away. The spring water that wrapped around him turned black and emitted a pungent stench. The great priest's complexion was heavy. The corrosive demonic power in Tutu's body is terrifying. Unless it is instantly expelled, any method of treatment will be swallowed up by it and become even more terrifying. Tuba anxiously said, "Great priest, is there no hope?" The great priest hesitated for a moment. If he directly swallows the divine lotus, he might be able to save Tutu's life. But the divine lotus is a holy object of my Titan race and concerns the fate of our entire tribe. I cannot let him use it. The surrounding Titans fell silent, sorrow on their faces. Although they competed with each other and sometimes fought with each other, they had grown up together and had an extremely close relationship. But now, they had to watch helplessly as Tutu died. This feeling could be imagined. The great priest took a deep breath, a trace of sorrow in his eyes. He turned and forced a smile. Birth, aging, sickness, and death, this is the cycle of the heavens and earth. I have shown your highness a joke. I will bring your highness away. Tuba's eyes flashed. He suddenly fell to his knees. Saint Sun, can you save? Tuba, I beg, the great priest roared out. Tuba, you are too insolent. Walala, the surrounding Titans all fell to their knees. We beg your highness Saint Sun to help us. We will be eternally grateful. The great priest's fingers trembled. How dare you? It had been difficult for him to protect these juniors. If they angered Chinyu, the consequences could be imagined. But as he thought about how they were pleading for the lives of their brothers and sisters, he was both angry and anxious. Chapter 398. As he spoke, Yu's palm flashed with light. He took out a jade box and opened it to reveal a fruit core. An astonishing life force emitted from it. Just taking a deep breath was enough to raise one's spirits. Eternal primordial fruit. The great priest cried out, excitement in his eyes. I never thought that your highness would have such a precious treasure. Tutu can be saved. He took a deep breath and solemnly said, I ask your highness to rest assured that this old servant will only take a wisp of origin energy from the fruit core. It will not cause any damage to it. Yu nodded. All right. Tuba and the others looked at him with surprise and anticipation. The great priest received the jade box with both hands and carefully looked at the fruit core. A look of praise appeared in his eyes. He lifted a finger, and a pearl-sized sphere of blood condensed at his fingertip. A wisp of white and green light flew out from the fruit core and fused into the sphere of blood. The great priest hastily flicked his finger, and a bead of blood flew into Tutu's body. Tutu's body suddenly trembled, and large amounts of rotten flesh fell off. Black blood flowed out, and he let out a blood-curdling scream before directly fainting. The great priest stepped forwards. The ground wriggled like a living creature, burying away all the corrosive and poisonous blood. On the surface of Tutu's body, his flesh and blood wriggled and rapidly regenerated. Soon, he was restored to his original state. With a look of relief on his face, he fell into a deep sleep. The great priest let out a long breath of relief. He smiled. All right, bring Tutu away. He will recover after resting for some time. Tuba respectfully bowed to Yu, his face full of gratitude. Then, he picked up Tutu and led the Titans away. Your Highness, Saint's son, Tutu has repeatedly disrespected you, and yet you are willing to use a treasure to save him. This is truly generous and benevolent of you. After he wakes up, I will have him kowtow in apology. The great priest returned the jade box with both hands. Yu's eyes flashed. There is no need to apologize. I would like to know, did the method of drawing out the fruit core's origin energy cause any damage to the great priest? The great priest was stunned. He probingly asked, Your Highness Saint's son wants to take the origin energy from the fruit core? Yu nodded, not denying it. The great priest earnestly said, Your Highness, please forgive me for being rude. Taking away the origin energy from the fruit core might be able to increase one's strength, but this method is not advisable. He lifted a hand and pointed. Your Highness, please look at this clear pond. With your Highness's eyesight, you should be able to discover that the reason why the spring water can repair and strengthen the body is because of this divine smelting plant. As for this divine lotus, it was created by the Holy Land a long time ago. The high priest of our tribe received a reward for meritorious service and obtained a lotus seed from a lotus throne. Because of the lack of spiritual energy and the lack of proper care, this divine lotus grows extremely slowly. But just as it sprouts, this spring water has such a miraculous effect. It is a most precious inherited treasure of my Titan tribe. Yu's eyes brightened. Great priest, are you saying that the fruit core in my hand can also be cultivated? The high priest bowed. I can't guarantee that I will succeed, but if I succeed, the benefits I will obtain will far surpass the benefits of directly absorbing the core's origin energy. This old servant dares to make a suggestion. As for how to do it, it is up to your Highness to decide. If you still want to extract the vitality from the core, it is not difficult for this old servant. Yu said, Thank you for the reminder, great priest. Since the fruit core can be cultivated, I will naturally try it. It was no wonder that when he saved Tutu, the great priest had solemnly stated that he wouldn't damage the fruit core. The Titan tribe couldn't cultivate the divine lotus, but with the little blue lamp, he had some confidence he could. As he thought about the possibility of harvesting a fruit tree with eternal primordial fruits hanging from it in the future, he couldn't help but feel excited. He closed the jade box and placed it in his storage ring. Then his eyes fell onto the spring water. The great priest observed his expression. He respectfully said, "Your Highness Saint Sun has an honored status and is also magnanimous enough to forgive my tribe's juniors. The Titan tribe has no way to repay you, but perhaps this spring water might be of some use to your Highness Saint Sun. Your Highness, please feel free to use it." Chinyu was overjoyed. "Thank you, great priest. Then I won't be polite. But please rest assured that I will not touch the divine lotus in the spring water." The great priest relaxed. What he feared was that Chinyu wouldn't be willing to use the fruit core and would instead have thoughts of the Titan tribe's divine lotus. Now that his worries were gone, his smile became even brighter. "Then, this old servant will no longer disturb your Highness' cultivation. I will bid my farewells first. If there is anything your Highness needs, please call for me. This old servant will be ready at any time." He turned and flew towards the Black Lake, bringing Tuba and the others who were waiting on the shore back to the tribe. Chinyu looked at the spring water on the ground and smiled. His status as the Nine-Realm Holy Land Saint Sun had helped him a great deal. He hoped that this spring water would be able to help his mortal body take another step forward and reach perfection of the King's Step demon body. If he could awaken his demon body combat skills once more, his strength would rise dramatically. With a step, Chinyu fell into the spring water. Countless wisps of cool energy rushed into his body. He quickly closed his eyes and absorbed them. Thump, thump, within his chest his heart fiercely beat. Blood rushed through his blood vessels, emitting excited cheers. You could clearly feel his mortal body constantly strengthening. Although it couldn't compare to the effects of the eternal primordial fruit, it was still extremely amazing. For 3 days, Chinyu stayed in the spring water. Because of his cultivation, the water level had dropped by several feet compared to before. It had to be known that even Tuba, Tutu, and the other Titan's younger generation geniuses could only obtain an extremely limited amount of spring water. If this were exchanged for spirit stones, then you would have spent at least several tens of millions of spirit stones in these 3 days of cultivation, or even more. Shwa. Chinyu opened his eyes. A divine light flashed, and the bones in his body began to emit explosive crackling sounds. The momentum was astonishing. His figure flashed, and he landed on the ground. His blood energy revolved around him, absorbing all the water vapor. His black robes became dry. I was just a bit off. Chinyu had a happy expression on his face, but there was also a bit of regret. The spring water had allowed his mortal body to reach the peak of large success of the King's Step, just a fine line away from perfection. But this fine line was like an insurmountable ravine. Unless he ate up the divine lotus, it would be impossible to break through. Chinyu had promised the great priest that he wouldn't use the divine lotus, so he naturally couldn't go back on his word. Moreover, there were still many things he didn't understand about the great priest's actions. This wasn't the first time that the Titans had entered the Nine-Realm Holy Land. They should be well aware of its true situation. To put it in simpler terms, such a powerful Titan great priest didn't need to care about Chinyu's status as the Saint Sun at all. But why was he so respectful and submissive? Before figuring out all of this, Chinyu felt that he should maintain a bit of vigilance and caution. His thoughts raced. A moment later, Chinyu looked up and loudly said, "Great priest, I have finished cultivating." Just as his voice fell, a black shadow appeared at the end of the lake. In several breaths of time, it landed in front of him. The great priest smiled. He respectfully said, "Congratulations to your Highness Saint Sun for making great progress in your cultivation." He swept his eyes over the spring water. Seeing that the divine lotus was intact, he relaxed. In order to avoid angering Chinyu, he hadn't dared to sense the situation on the island at the center of the lake. In truth, he was worried about the safety of the divine lotus. The great priest was well aware of just how tempting the divine lotus was to someone who cultivated the mortal body. If Chinyu really ate it, the tribe's situation would become even worse. Chinyu realized this, but didn't reveal it. "I must thank your tribe's divine lotus and great priest for your generosity. The great priest flicked his sleeves, and the spring water rapidly sank into the ground. The ground closed up with it. Your Highness Saint Sun, the tribe has prepared a banquet to welcome your arrival. I hope that you can attend. Chinyu thought for a moment. If Great Priest is so sincere, then I must disturb you. This is the honor of my Titan tribe. The Great Priest was overjoyed. He brought Chinyu and flew out of the Black Lake. Soon, after Chinyu cleaned himself up, a grand banquet began. Chinyu was respectfully invited to the seat of honor, where he was greeted by the tens of thousands of Titan tribe members. They all looked at him with awe and curiosity. Just as the banquet began, a pale-faced Tutu arrived with several Titans. He knelt to the ground. My son didn't know your Highness Saint Sun's status and offended your Highness' dignity. Thanks to your Highness' magnanimity, he was able to preserve his life. Today, I brought him here to apologize to your Highness and express my thanks. It was unknown what Tutu had said, but he changed from his usual arrogant and cruel demeanor. He respectfully cowed out. Tutu thanks your Highness Saint Sun for saving my life. In the future, I am willing to follow your Highness and be your sword and spear, helping you overcome all obstacles. Chinyu smiled. What happened in the past is already in the past. I don't blame you. It's just that it is inconvenient for me to bring you along when I am traveling in the outside world. The great priest stood up. He respectfully said, Your Highness Saint Sun, although you have an honored status, the humans in the outside world don't know of it. How about you bring Tuba and Tutu with you, and have them follow by your side? Moreover, with your status, it is natural for you to have some guards. Chinyu frowned. According to what I know, the life forms of the infinite realm are unable to leave as they please. The great priest waved his hand. Tutu and the others kowtowed once more. Then they drew back several steps and turned to leave. The Titans to the left and right also drew back, leaving room for the two to speak. Your Highness Saint Sun, you might not know, but your status token itself has an enormous space and can even carry life forms. Of course, the ones you can carry must be cultivators of the nine-realm Holy Land and their subordinates. Chinyu's eyes brightened. Then, he revealed a helpless look. Unfortunately, with my current cultivation, I cannot activate the token, so how can I bring them away? The great priest bowed. I don't dare to conceal anything from your Highness. Tuba and Tutu are the most outstanding juniors of my Titan race. I have my own selfish reasons for sending them away. If our tribe cannot be protected in the future, with the two of them outside, the bloodline of my Titan race can still be passed on. So, I will think of a way to help your Highness open up a portion of the space ahead of time, so that the two of them can enter. Of course, my methods are limited, and I can only do this much. Truly activating the token will depend on your Highness yourself. Chinyu smiled. Since that's the case, I naturally have no objections. The great priest was overjoyed. Thank you, your Highness. Chinyu took out the token and handed it to the great priest. This came from the master of the nine-realm Holy Land, and its might was unfathomable. Now that it had recognized him as its master, he could take it back with a thought, so he didn't need to worry about any accidents occurring. As the banquet was about to end, Chinyu looked up at the skies. He casually said, Great priest, ever since I entered the infinite realm, I have never seen darkness appear here. May I know the reason for this? The great priest cupped his hands together. I have never left the infinite realm, so I don't know what the outside world is like. But from ancient times until now, the infinite realm has always been in a state of daytime. Chinyu's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that it was like this when the world was complete? The great priest nodded. My tribe has suffered many disasters, but our inheritances have never been severed. According to the ancient texts of my tribe, this is indeed the case. Chinyu said, I wonder if I can look through your tribe's ancient texts. The great priest smiled. Of course, after the banquet ends, I will have someone deliver them to your Highness. 2 hours later, Chinyu sat on a stone chair in his dwelling, carefully reading through the Titan race's inheritance stones. These objects were quite mystical. They could record a great deal of information and even preserve images. Among the many inheritance stones, Qin was able to see the magnificence of the infinite realm when it was complete. Compared to the current land of divinity and demons, it wasn't any worse. And among these inheritance stones, there was one that belonged to a great priest from hundreds of thousands of years ago. It was an object that he used to record his daily life. Qin flipped through it and finally came to a conclusion. In the infinite realm, the concept of night didn't exist. This was the so-called eternal wisdom. Chapter 399. As he thought of the world's will's determination to destroy the little blue lamp, Qin Yu's heart tightened. Although he didn't have any evidence, he felt as if he had come into contact with some horrifying secret. And this secret wasn't something he had the qualifications to touch with his current cultivation. Qin took a deep breath and suppressed these thoughts. He couldn't help but reveal a look of hesitation. Could the little blue lamp really be some sinful object? No. It could accelerate the growth of spiritual plants and enhance the quality of pills without the least bit of evil aura. His thoughts were all jumbled up. After a moment, Qin calmed down and a firm look appeared in his eyes. The reason he was able to reach where he was today was largely due to the little blue lamp. It could be called the cornerstone upon which Qin Yu could establish himself in the world. Even if the little blue lamp was truly a sinful object, they had already fused together and could not be separated. Naturally, they would be reduced to evil together. Since this was the case, there was no point in hesitating. He only needed to abide by his heart and continue walking down this road. In the distance, in the endless nothingness, in the space connected to the sealed dimension ring, the little blue lamp that had turned into a great sun seemed to sense Qin Yu's thoughts and emitted a loud hum. Invisibly, the connection between them became even closer. Qin Yu could feel the sense of intimacy from the little blue lamp. His lips curved up in a smile. I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. If you are evil, then let us die the fires of evil in the entire world. He turned his hand, and an icebox appeared in his palm. This was the rest loam he obtained from the Nine-Realm Holy Land's secret treasure pagoda. Little blue lamp, is this rest loam useful to you? Just as Qin Yu's voice fell, a great sun phantom appeared in front of him. However, this great sun phantom was wrapped in a layer of dark nothingness, isolating its aura and making it impossible for the outside world to sense it. Pa! The icebox shattered into powder, and the rest loam appeared in the outside world. The great sun phantom fluctuated, and Qin Yu could feel the little blue lamp's joy. A deep blue light gushed out, covering the rest loam. It trembled for a moment before vanishing from sight. Shwa! The great sun phantom vanished. Qin Yu's thoughts stirred. He quickly closed his eyes, and his consciousness entered the sealed dimension ring. After a dazed and numb feeling, he arrived in the space it was connected to. His consciousness fused into his blood, turning into a divine sense body. When Qin Yu opened his eyes, he discovered that the great sun above his head had become extremely dim, as if all of its strength had been gathered together. He could clearly see that within this dim shadow of the sun, the 2 feet of deep blue was transparent and pure. The breath earth was bathed within, and it was actually like a heart, fiercely beating. Just at this moment, all of the blue disappeared, turning into a ray of light that entered the growing soil. The breath loam suddenly froze, and then in the next moment, it exploded into powder with a bang and transformed into countless fine powder that scattered down like boundless snowflakes. When these snowflakes fell onto the ground, they directly merged into it. Then, loud rumbling sounds came from the depths of this broken land that had experienced such a catastrophe. Qin Yu revealed a shocked expression. He could see that on the boundless earth, great waves were set off. Everything that was broken on the ground was instantly erased beneath these waves. With the sound of breaking air, a blade of grass ran over in a panic. It wrapped around Qin Yu's body and shivered, as if it were remembering something extremely terrifying. Don't worry. Today isn't the day of destruction. This is the day that this space will be reborn. Yu gently stroked the grass and smiled. The grass gradually calmed down, but it still wrapped around Yu. One man, one grass, they watched this scene that could be called a miracle. When all traces of the earth were erased, it was as flat as a sheet of white paper. Then, on this sheet of white paper, some parts became hills and some parts became plains. Between the plains and hills, there were some places that protruded into mountains and some areas that caved in into rivers. Water vapor rose up from the ground, condensing into clouds in the skies. Then, with a loud rumble of thunder, a torrential downpour of rain followed. After the rain fell on the earth, it began to emit something called vitality. Just looking at it made one feel happy. The grass wrapped around Yu's body cried out in excitement. It flew out and landed on a hill. Its roots rapidly wriggled and drilled into the earth. Then its body began to wildly grow. In several breaths of time, it grew to thousands of feet, a grass that was thousands of feet tall. Within its leaves, the silver veins were deep to the extreme. Then, a touch of gold appeared and spread to every corner at an astonishing speed. A brilliant golden light emitted from the entire grass. A vast and boundless aura caused one's heart to tremble. In this shattered space, it had bitterly endured for endless years without truly dying. This grass was naturally not ordinary. A long, long time ago, it had an extremely domineering name, the star-cutting grass. In the rumors, when this grass grew to its peak, a single blade could tear through the heavens, pierce through the boundless nothingness, and even cut apart a star. The heavy rain continued to pour down. By now, it had already been over a month. Yu stood here, watching as the rain gathered into streams. The streams melted into small rivers, and the small rivers poured into great rivers. Several great rivers roared as they flowed towards the lowest point of the earth, forming a massive lake. Or it could be called a sea. Yu quietly watched all of this, his mind immersed in it. It was like he was participating in the rebirth of the entire world. There was a mystical feeling that made it so that he couldn't feel the flow of time in the outside world. Even though his divine sense had left his body for such a long time, he didn't feel tired at all. Rather, his divine sense began to grow stronger at an astonishing speed, becoming purer and more transparent. Yu didn't realize that in his soul space, a purple moon was emitting a light that was constantly fusing into his soul. Compared to when it first condensed, the purple moon was clearly larger. From a crescent moon, it had become a narrow sickle. The purple light it sprinkled down was also much purer than before. The third month passed. Yu's body turned illusory as he awoke from his immersed state. His divine sense felt as if it had eaten a full meal, unable to continue growing stronger. Sensing his surroundings, he discovered that 3 months had passed. Yu was startled, and his divine sense body loudly dissipated. Within the dwelling of the Titan tribe, a layer of dust had fallen onto Yu's body. His fingers moved, and he opened his eyes. Bang! An invisible strength erupted, shaking away all the dust. 2 beams of divine light shot out from his eyes, emitting a horrifying momentum. Yu's expression didn't change at all, but his entire person exuded an inexplicable majesty. Every action and movement he made caused one's heart to tremble. This was the pressure that naturally appeared after his soul force increased. Yu could feel his increased soul force, and a happy expression lit up his face. But soon, he jumped up and hurried outside. But before he could reach the door, the courtyard door exploded into pieces with a loud bang. The array formation flashed and was forcefully broken. Yu's complexion changed. He shouted out, "Who is it?" Dust flew into the air, revealing an embarrassed expression onto his face. The great priest beside him widened his eyes, but they soon turned into pleasant surprise. "Your Highness Saint Sun, you haven't sent any messages for 2 months. This old servant has called out to you several times, but you haven't responded. Thus, if I have disturbed you in any way, I ask that your Highness forgive me." Yu coughed. "I stumbled upon some gains, so I went into seclusion for a period of time. I was unable to sense the outside world, and I've caused the Great Priest to worry." The Great Priest's eyes fell on Chinyu, and he revealed a shocked expression. "Your Highness's cultivation speed is amazing. In a short 3 months, your soul force has nearly doubled in strength. I fear that you are now comparable to an ordinary Blue Sea realm martial artist." As the Titan race's Great Priest, he naturally had a deep understanding of the cultivation boundaries of humans. He sighed inwardly. Chinyu was truly worthy of being chosen as the saint son of a holy land. His talent had reached an unbelievable boundary. But the more it was like this, the greater the chances of the Titan race being rescued were. The Great Priest was shocked, but also pleasantly surprised. Chinyu faintly smiled, not saying much about this matter. The Great Priest seems a bit worried. "Is something the matter?" The Great Priest hurriedly said, "It is indeed an urgent matter, otherwise I wouldn't have dared to break into your Highness's dwelling. This is because the Infinite Realm will close soon." He took out his status token. "I have already opened up a space a bit, enough for Tuba and Tutu to enter. I ask that your Highness Saint Son bring them out of the Infinite Realm." Chinyu was startled. "How long until it closes?" The Great Priest thought for a moment. "According to my experience, it shouldn't be longer than 10 days. Chinyu's heart sank. In a short 10 days, he feared he wouldn't have a chance to find Ningling. Although reason told Chinyu that enhancing his soul force was the wiser choice, he still blamed himself. He shouldn't have immersed himself in the reconstruction of the spatial fragment, delaying him for 3 months. Otherwise, he might have been able to see her again. Since things had come to this, blaming himself was useless. Chinyu took a deep breath and composed himself. "Since there are still 10 days, I should prepare to leave." The Great Priest revealed a nervous expression. "Your Highness, Saint Son, every time the Infinite Realm opens or closes, the strength of the rules will be extremely active. Our Titan tribe needs to be completely sealed up in order to avoid being detected. So, cough cough, I ask for your Highness Saint Son's forgiveness." Chinyu was suddenly enlightened. He felt a bit awkward. So he had been in seclusion all this time, delaying the Titan tribe from opening the seal. He immediately said, "I didn't know about this. Since it's like this, I will leave today." The Great Priest quickly said, "It was my fault. I didn't inform your Highness of this matter ahead of time." He took out another inheritance stone. "Your Highness, this contains my Titan race's body transformation cultivation method. I have seen that your Highness has also practiced the path of body transformation, and this cultivation method might be useful for your Highness. Consider it a gift from my Titan race to your Highness. I only hope that your Highness can one day truly inherit the Holy Land and rescue my Titan race from this destroyed world." Chinyu received the token and inheritance stone. He finally understood why the Great Priest was so respectful and awed towards him. The reason wasn't because of his status as the Saint's son, but because he was the only person who could possibly save the Titan race. Only when he became the master of the Holy Land and pardoned the Titan race would they be able to leave the rapidly approaching destruction of the Infinite Realm. Thinking of this, Chinyu relaxed. Towards Tuba and Tutu who followed him, he could completely trust them. This was because the two of them were absolutely loyal and devoted to him. They cared about his safety even more than he did himself. "Great Priest, rest assured that I will work hard to cultivate so that I can bring the Titan race out of this world as soon as possible." The Great Priest deeply bowed. "I will have to trouble your Highness." He turned and shouted, "The two of you, remember, even if you die a horrible death, you must ensure His Highness's safety." Tuba and Tutu fell to their knees. "We vow to protect His Highness with our lives." Chinyu's eyes flashed with satisfaction. These two Titans were extremely strong. If they followed by his side, it would indeed increase their safety. His thoughts stirred, and he immediately discovered that the space opened up within the token was 1,000 feet wide. Moreover, there was a well-built courtyard within. As for further away, it was covered by a dark gray fog and was in a sealed state. Chinyu instinctively knew how to control this space. With a thought, A suction force covered Tuba and Tutu. Without any resistance, they were sucked in. Chinyu used his divine sense to investigate. He discovered that the two of them had already appeared in the courtyard within the token space. And if he wanted to summon them out, he could do so with just a thought. In fact, Chinyu even discovered that he himself could enter this space. With a thought, the world around him changed. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Tuba and Tutu, causing them to jump up in fright. They quickly fell to their knees and bowed. Chapter 400. Chinyu didn't stay for long. He glanced around and then said to Tuba and Tutu, "The two of you cultivate here in peace. Once we leave the infinite realm, I will let you out." "Yes, your highness." Tuba and Tutu fell to their knees. Chinyu's eyes flashed. He didn't stop them from bowing again. With a thought, he vanished from sight and appeared in front of the great priest in the next moment. "Great priest, when I entered the token just now, did you discover where it was?" The great priest thought for a moment. "I could only feel that there was something unusual in the space in front of me, but I couldn't find your highness token." Chinyu thought to himself that this was indeed the case. The token could be received into his body. After Chinyu entered, the token would lose its concealing barrier and fuse into the space. This point was extremely narrow. Even someone as powerful as the great priest could only faintly sense it at such a close distance. From this, it could be seen that the token's concealing abilities were extremely strong. Of course, the great priest was a powerhouse with a mortal body, but his soul cultivation was weak. This also had to be taken into consideration. Even so, when he faced dangers in the future, the token could still be considered a good way to avoid disaster. Chinyu cupped his hands together. "Great priest, if there is nothing else, then I will bid my farewells." The great priest bowed. "Farewell, your highness." Chinyu stepped forwards. His body turned into a beam of light that flew out of the canyon, vanishing from sight. A Titan powerhouse walked over, a puzzled look on his face. "Great priest, since his highness is the key to saving our people, why not send stronger people to follow him to ensure that nothing goes wrong?" The great priest shook his head. "His highness seems kind and friendly, but the truth is that he is extremely vigilant in his heart. If we send people that are too strong to follow him, I fear he will feel fear in his heart. That would be bad for us." Tuba and Tutu are both outstanding juniors of my race. Because the Infinite Realm's rules have erased them these past years, they have been suppressing their cultivations. Once they enter the land of divinity and demons, their strength will rapidly rise, and they should be able to protect themselves. There are also some words that the great priest didn't say. The reason he sent Tuba and Tutu was because their strength wasn't too different from Chinyu's. The three of them might experience some trials and tribulations, but only in adversity would one see true friends. As long as the three of them could be on good terms, the Titan race would have a future. I hope that our race can smoothly last until that day. The great priest silently thought to himself. He turned and shouted, "Pass down orders. Seal off the canyon and shield the Infinite Realm's rules." After several breaths of time, a blood-red beam of light shot up into the sky, transforming into a layer of light that spread out and covered the entire Titan tribe. 100 miles away from the canyon, Chinyu stopped. He turned to look at the blood-red pillar of light above the canyon. His eyes flashed, and he continued forwards. The Infinite Realm would only close for another 10 days at most. The chances of finding Ningling were slim, but he still didn't want to give up. He took many turns, but in the end he didn't find anything. Today, 8 days had passed. The Infinite Realm could close at any moment. Chinyu sighed inwardly. He stopped atop a mountain peak. A strong gust of wind blew against his face, causing his black robe to flutter. His face was a little dim, but his eyes were still filled with determination. Even if he couldn't see Ningling this time, his current strength far surpassed what it was when he first entered the Infinite Realm. At worst, he could spend some time crossing the land of divinity and demons to reach the immortal sect. As long as one wanted to, one could always see it. Chinyu took a step and leapt down. His figure rose and fell several times in the jungle before he soon vanished from sight. The ninth day, you could also feel the strange fluctuations emitting from the infinite realm. It seemed that it would close soon. He took a deep breath and landed. He chose an ancient tree and sat down cross-legged. In the last bit of time he had left, Chinyu planned to wait here for the infinite realm to close. But not long after Chinyu sat down, two cultivators raced towards him from afar with panicked expressions. After reaching large success of the king's step demon body, his hearing had become even more amazing. He could faintly hear bits and pieces of their conversation. Immortal sect, female cultivator, trapped, terrifying. As these words fell into his ears, Chinyu's eyes shot open and he moved to block the two. Who is it? The two cultivators were shocked. When they saw that it was only Chinyu, they calmed down a little, but they were still on high alert. They hadn't discovered this cultivator ahead of time. If he were to sneak attack them, thinking of this, their expressions became even more dignified. Chinyu cupped his hands together. Fellow Taoists, please don't misunderstand. I have no ill intentions. I just overheard you two say that there was a female immortal sect cultivator that fell into a trap. I wonder what she looks like and where she is right now. The two cultivators glanced at each other. One of them said, "We were just passing by from afar. We only saw a young and beautiful female immortal sect cultivator fall into a stone forest 100 miles away." Chinyu nodded. "Thank you." His figure flashed, and he hurried away in the direction they had pointed out. Senior apprentice brother, that is a magic-devouring demon spider. That person's cultivation isn't weak, but if he rushes, there will only be death for him. The other cultivator frowned. The person who spoke sneered. That person asked us for information, so we are just telling him the truth. Why do we need to care about him? What senior apprentice brother says is also true. The two quickly left. Chinyu deliberately sped up 100 miles and soon arrived. As he expected, what appeared in front of him was a vast and barren stone forest. These stones were haphazardly piled together, forming an array formation. Fog tumbled through the stone forest, making it impossible to see what was inside. At this time, one could faintly hear a great movement coming from deep within the stone forest. Chinyu stepped into the stone forest without hesitation. The moment he entered the fog, his complexion changed. Because of this, the magic power circulating within his body became sluggish. But with a thought, the circulation of his magic power suddenly accelerated, and he broke through this invisible sluggishness. Chinyu didn't stop at all. He shot straight into the depths of the stone forest. The fog became increasingly thick. Luckily, Chinyu's eyesight was amazing, and he could faintly make out the approximate situation. As he passed several giant stones, his complexion changed, and he came to a sudden stop. A large white net fell down from above his head. This net was slightly damp, as if it had just been woven. It emitted a faint, fishy smell. Chinyu punched out his fist, and the falling net trembled as it was torn apart. But as it broke apart, a great amount of liquid fell down, filling his nose and mouth with a thick, fishy smell. The magic power circulating within his body came to a sudden stop, as if it had fallen into a swamp. It became incomparably difficult and slow to circulate. Poison. Looking at the shattered net, Chinyu instantly thought back to the information he had read about the infinite realm. There was a terrifying monster beast that he had seen before, a magic-devouring demon spider. This was a special monster beast of the infinite realm. From the day it was born, it would constantly weave large webs, covering its territory layer by layer. Moreover, throughout its long life, it would constantly reinforce the webs. The reason it did this was because its main body was weak. Without the protection of the webs, it would be easily killed. But at the same time, the magic-devouring demon spider that was trapped in the webs could be called a nightmarish existence. This was because the webs that the magic-devouring demon spider weaved contained a strange poison that could restrain the magic power within a living being. Moreover, this poison didn't corrode the mortal body. Once a living being was exhausted and lost the ability to resist, they would become its food. Chinyu revealed a look of hesitation. Then, he took a step forwards and continued to rush deeper into the stone forest. He wasn't sure whether or not it was Ning Ling inside. But even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, Chinyu couldn't take this risk. As far as he could see, layers upon layers of spider webs filled his field of vision, blocking off all paths forward. If he wanted to enter the depths of the stone forest, he could only forcefully break through. But if he did this, he would have to tear apart a massive amount of spider webs. And after the spider webs broke apart, even more poison would be released. This was an unsolvable proposition. Chinyu lifted a hand and punched out. The spider webs in front of him trembled and disintegrated. The magic power within his body flowed even slower, but he didn't stop at all. Bang, bang. With loud explosions, he rapidly advanced like a hot knife through butter. His skin had turned a pale gray color. This was a sign that the spider's poison had seriously invaded his body. If it were any other divine soul cultivator, their magic power would have already condensed, and they wouldn't have been able to move it in the slightest. But Chinyu had 5 nascent souls in his Dantian Sea, so he could just barely support himself. However, the closer he went to the depths of the stone forest, the harder the spider webs became. Originally, he could have casually shattered them with a single punch, but now he needed several punches to break through. Like this, the consumption of magic power became increasingly severe. Chinyu's 5-element nascent souls also began to rapidly dim. Bang! The thick spider webs in front of him withstood 7 punches before a crack was torn open. Chinyu flew in and finally saw a terrifying spider that was dozens of feet long. It nimbly crawled along the spider webs, its speed as fast as lightning. Its tail spat out spider silk that constantly reinforced the cage. Within this spider silk cage was a female immortal sect cultivator. Her face was pale, and she was panting for breath. If it weren't for a powerful treasure above her head, she would have already become the flesh and blood of the magic-devouring demon spider. Seeing Chinyu arrive, the female immortal sect cultivator was overjoyed. She hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoist, I am the immortal sect disciple Shui Yuanling. I ask fellow Taoist to save me." It wasn't Ning Ling. Yu's eyes revealed a bit of disappointment, but it soon disappeared. He hesitated for a moment and then stepped forwards, hurtling towards the spider silk cage. The magic-devouring demon spider had also discovered the uninvited guest that was Chinyu. It emitted an angry roar and spat out a massive mass of poison. "Fellow Taoist, be careful," Shui Yuanling hurriedly warned. She had been careless and had been swept up by this poison, causing her to lose her ability to resist and allow the magic-devouring demon spider to slowly drag her deeper into the stone forest. But Chinyu didn't seem to hear her. He didn't dodge at all, instead smashing apart the poison with a single punch. Shui Yuanling's eyes widened in shock. Was this person an idiot? She had already warned him, and yet he still forcefully collided with the poison. It was over, it was over. She originally thought that with a helper here, there might be a slight chance of survival. But now it seemed that this was nothing more than food for the magic-devouring demon spider. The magic-devouring demon spider was stunned for a moment. Then, a mocking look appeared in its eyes. As expected, the intruder human stiffened and fell to the spider web. It hesitated for a moment, and then its legs began to move. Its body was like a gust of wind as it hurtled towards Chinyu. The magic-devouring demon spider could feel the rich blood energy within this human outsider's body. After eating him, it might be able to help it complete its transformation once more. Chapter 401. According to the Jade Slip, the magic-devouring demon spider's body was incomparably hard, and its only weakness was the space between its compound eyes. This monster beast had always been careful in defending itself, and would only expose itself when it was eating. Chinyu pretended to be poisoned in order to draw the magic-devouring demon spider over. As expected, beneath his fist, the magic-devouring demon spider cried out in pain. It spat out green blood, and its body swayed as it tried to escape. Chinyu naturally wouldn't give a chance to escape. With a loud shout, his feet fell, and he instantly approached it. He lifted a hand and punched the magic-devouring demon spider's compound eyes. With a loud cracking sound, the magic-devouring demon spider's skull shattered. Its compound eyes were shattered and green blood flowed out. With a shrill scream, the magic-devouring demon spider went completely crazy. Perhaps because it knew that it couldn't escape today, it chose to desperately take revenge. Its fat tail suddenly exploded and endless white mucus gushed out. As this mucus touched the air, it rapidly condensed and wrapped around Chinyu. At the same time, several of the magic-devouring demon spider's legs wildly chopped down. Chinyu's pupils shrank. Instead of retreating, he moved forwards. The magic-devouring demon spider could feel him approaching, and it opened its jaws to bite down. Chinyu dodged to the side. He lifted a hand and grasped at its throat. Gotcha! The magic-devouring demon spider's body stiffened. The crazily chopping legs weakly fell to the ground. Demon body combat skill, choking finger. 30% of defense was ignored, and the absolute defense-breaking attribute erupted, instantly killing it. Chinyu's eyes flashed, and he punched out twice, smashing apart the magic-devouring demon spider's head. Then, he drilled his hand into the sticky mass and took out an irregular stone the size of a palm. With a thought, water appeared out of thin air, cleansing his palm and the stone. He looked at the purple spots on the surface of the stone and revealed a satisfied expression. Because the magic-devouring demon spider's strength was limited, it was impossible for it to completely absorb the strength of powerful life forms it swallowed. The remaining portion would condense into a spirit stone in its brain. This spirit stone contained a massive amount of chaotic and wild strength. It was impossible for cultivators to use it, but it was an excellent treasure for raising spirit beasts. In the rumors, it even had the miraculous effect of pushing spirit beasts to the next level. The purple spots that appeared on the surface of the spirit stone were a sign that it contained an extremely potent strength. When Chinyu obtained the purple-back blue-wing ants in the Land of Exiles, after they evolved into yin-yang twin ants, they hadn't received any further training. Now they were still growing and multiplying in the Imperial Spirit Bag. After entering the land of divinity and demons, there would be countless geniuses and powerhouses. There would be countless lucky chances, but at the same time, there would be countless dangers. If he could raise the yin-yang twin ants, then he would have another method to deal with his enemies. He flipped his hand and put away the spirit stone. Then, he punched several times to break apart the spiderweb. As he felt the sourness in his body, he frowned. The magic-devouring demon spider's poison was truly fierce. Even his large success, King Step Demon body, had begun to be corroded. If he hadn't used a trick to kill this magic-devouring demon spider, today's outcome would have been unknown. Bang! A radiant divine light erupted. Without the reinforcement of the magic-devouring demon spider, the spider web cage was torn apart with difficulty. Shui Yuanling's complexion was deathly pale. She staggered out, her eyes filled with fear and joy. She gratefully bowed towards Chinyu. Thank you, fellow Taoist, for helping me, otherwise I would have died today. Chinyu's eyes flashed. This place is filled with poison. Let's leave first. Shui Yuanling nodded again and again. Light flashed around her body, but just as she flew up, the light faded away. She staggered and bitterly smiled. I'm afraid fellow Taoist will have to bring me out. Chinyu nodded. With several leaps, he arrived at her side. Then, I'll have to offend you. As he grabbed Shui Yuanling's wrist, a delicate fragrance wafted towards him, causing his heart to heat up. He quickly suppressed these thoughts and brought this woman along with him, quickly leaving along the path he had opened up to come here. As Shui Yuanling's wrist was grabbed by him, her face flushed red. She glanced at Chinyu from the corner of her eyes and saw that his expression was calm and steady. She couldn't help but reveal a bit of praise. Because of her cultivation method, Her aura had an extraordinary allure to the opposite sex. Qingyu was so close, so he could definitely feel it. Yet, his expression didn't change. From this, one could imagine just how tenacious his will was. The road was smooth, and the two soon left the magic devouring demon spider's territory. Qingyu let go and took several steps back. Shui Yuanling thanked him once more. I also had some harvests in the infinite realm. I wonder if fellow Taoist has anything you need? Qingyu waved his hand. It's nothing. There's no need for a reward. It's just that I have something I hope Miss Shui can tell me. Shui Yuanling nodded. Fellow Taoist, may I ask? Qinyu's eyes brightened. I wonder if Miss Shui knows Ningling. Shui Yuanling's heart skipped a beat, but her complexion didn't change. She pretended to think for a moment and then said, I don't know her. Qinyu frowned. According to what I know, Ningling is also a disciple of the immortal sect, and she is currently in the infinite realm. As a disciple of the immortal sect, how could Miss Shui not know? Shui Yuanling's thoughts raced. Fellow Taoist might not know, but the immortal sect is only an honorific title in the outside world. In truth, our sects are all different. They are called the Lucid Nether Realm, Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, and Heart Mountains Buddhist Kingdom. The three great immortal Tao sects are not subordinate to each other, and they have many disciples. So it's normal that I don't know this fellow Taoist, Ningling Qin. You didn't doubt her. He was a bit disappointed and nodded. Since that's the case, then I will bid my farewells. Hold on. Shui Yuanling smiled. May I ask for fellow Taoist's honored name? Although I don't know Ningling, the three immortal sects are allies, and the relationship between our disciples has always been good. Perhaps there are other disciples in my sect that know her. I might be able to pass on some information for fellow Taoist. Qinyu thought for a moment. Then I'll have to trouble Miss Shui. My name is Qinyu. If you can find Ningling, you only need to tell her that I have arrived at the land of divinity and demons and have her wait for me in peace. He cupped his hands together and then turned around, vanishing from sight. Shui Yuanling watched Qinyu leave. She could no longer maintain her calm expression. Her eyebrows furrowed together, a complex look in her eyes. She sighed and shook her head. She took out a pill and swallowed it. A moment later, light flashed around her, and she flew off into the distance. For hours later, Shui Yuanling's figure appeared in a temporary camp. This was where the immortal sect disciples were gathered. Senior apprentice Sister Shui, with a light cry of joy, an immortal sect female cultivator appeared. Her flawless appearance caused the eyes of the several immortal sect disciples to brighten. But soon, they lowered their heads, not daring to look at her any longer. This female cultivator was Ningling. Shui Yuanling revealed a stiff expression. She smiled and said, Junior apprentice sister Ningling. Ningling said, Senior apprentice sister Shui hasn't arrived yet. I was just about to report this to Senior apprentice brother Wenren and ask him to send people out to look for you. I can see that Senior apprentice sister's aura is very weak. Did you encounter some trouble? Shui Yuanling nodded. I was careless and fell into the ambush of a magic devouring demon spider. It took me a great deal of strength to escape. She smiled. There are some matters I need to report to Senior apprentice brother Wenren. I will bid my farewells first. Ningling looked at Shui Yuanling, who was hurrying away, and frowned. Senior apprentice sister seemed a bit strange today. Ever since she joined the immortal sect, she had been taken care of by Shui Yuanling and was extremely grateful to this warm-hearted senior apprentice sister. She didn't think too much about it and flew back to her dwelling. Is Senior apprentice brother Wenren here? Shui Yuanling requests an audience. Outside the tent, Shui Yuanling respectfully said. After several breaths of time, a gentle voice sounded out. Junior apprentice sister Shui, please enter. The light at the entrance of the tent vanished. Shui Yuanling lowered her head and walked in. Wenren Dongyue was sitting cross-legged. At this time, he smiled at her. His deep and serene eyes were like the vast starry skies, making one unable to help but be lost in them. Shui Yuanling's face blushed red. She quickly bowed. Wenren Dongyue smiled. Junior apprentice sister, you came so late. Did something happen? Shui Yuanling looked around. She wanted to speak, but hesitated. Wenren Dongyue flicked his sleeves, and the light at the entrance gushed out once more. His smile didn't change. You can speak now. Shui Yuanling clenched her teeth. On the way to the camp, I was ambushed by a magic-devouring demon spider. Afterwards, I was rescued by a cultivator. His name is Qinyu. Wenren Dongyue frowned. Qinyu. He thought back to the chessboard of heaven and earth and Ningling's reaction upon hearing this name. His smile faded a little. After several breaths of silence, he said, Is it the same person? Shui Yuanling said, That person is also looking for junior apprentice sister Ningling. He asked me about her, but I declined. Wenren Dongyue's expression had already returned to normal. He smiled and said, I've made things difficult for junior apprentice sister Shui. Shui Yuanling hurriedly said, This Qinyu's background is unknown. Junior apprentice sister Ningling is incomparably important to my immortal sect, so how could I allow him to casually approach us? This answer satisfied Wenren Dongyue. His smile became even warmer. Junior apprentice sister Shui, do you know who this Qinyu is? Shui Yuanling said, Qinyu asked me to pass a message to junior apprentice sister Ningling. He said that he has arrived at the land of divinity and demons, and that junior apprentice sister Ningling can wait for him in peace. She hesitated for a moment and then continued to say, From what I can see, this Qinyu isn't weak. He might have a way to find the immortal sect. Wenren Dongyue smiled. I think he is an old acquaintance of junior apprentice sister Ningling in the land of exiles. He was attracted by junior apprentice sister Ningling's elegant demeanor and chased after her until now. He really is an idiot. But with junior apprentice sister's current status, how could he possibly have the qualifications to approach her? In the end, it will all be for naught. His hand flashed with light. Junior apprentice sister Shui has worked hard. This is a blue water origin energy fruit that I obtained in the Nine-Realm Holy Land. It should be of some help to junior apprentice sister's future cultivation. Shui Yuanling was overjoyed. Thank you, senior apprentice brother Wenren. She received the deep green fruit that emitted a rich water vapor. The guilt she felt towards Qin Yu completely vanished. As senior apprentice brother Wenren said, with junior apprentice sister Ningling's current status, how could anyone have the qualifications to approach her? She told senior apprentice brother Wenren this because she considered the sect there was nothing wrong with that. Shui Yuanling put away the blue water origin energy fruit and respectfully bowed to leave. When there was only Wenren Dongyue left in the tent, a thoughtful look crossed his face. After a long time, his lips curled up in a smile. He was only a nameless nobody in the land of exiles. Even if he had some lucky chances and came to the land of divinity and demons, or even entered the infinite realm, how could he compare with him? Moreover, the infinite realm was about to close. As long as he returned to the immortal sect, he would have plenty of time to move junior apprentice sister Ningling. Wenren Dongyue was fully confident in this. As for Qinyu, it would be best if he gave up. But if he really dared to come to the immortal sect to look for her, Wenren Dongyue had his own methods to make him return empty-handed and even make him suffer. Chapter 402. In the dark cave, Qin Yu's eyes flashed open. With the help of pills and the powerful regenerative abilities of the demon body, he had already dispelled the magic, devouring demon spider's poison from his body. He stood up, feeling the tyrannical strength coursing through his body. Qin Yu smiled. Perhaps with just the strength of his mortal body, he could kill ordinary divine soul cultivators. As for the second stage of the demon body's awakening, the might of the choking finger was beyond his expectations. Besides not being able to find Ningling, the harvest of this trip to the infinite realm could be called astonishing. Qin Yu roughly calculated what he had obtained. In Bronze Bell Ancient City, he joined forces with Qin Hanshi to kill an evil spirit and obtained a portion of its blood marrow. This could be refined into a blood marrow pill that could stimulate one's bloodline. In a danger zone in a mountain valley, two terrifying life forms perished together, and he obtained materials to refine the superstorm flow. A broken bell. This object seemed ordinary and didn't give off any fluctuations of strength, but Qin couldn't damage it in the least. Just from the materials alone, he could tell it was extraordinary. A crescent purple moon in his soul space. He had obtained this after passing the divine sense test. Although he didn't know all of its mysteries, just what he knew now was enough to help his soul rapidly grow. Demon Body reached large success, and he had awakened the choking finger one after another. Its killing might was astonishing. Eternal primordial fruit's core. Once the space of nothingness was restored, he could cultivate it into a fruit tree and harvest it. Resloam, an unknown and mystical treasure that was born from. It had the ability to condense a world and repair a world. It could help the space of nothingness rapidly regenerate. Although the status of a nine-realm Holy Land Saint's son seemed useless, it actually brought tremendous advantages to Qin. Moreover, once he managed to awaken his cultivation in the future, there would be unimaginable harvests. If other cultivators who entered the infinite realm were to learn of these harvests, their eyes would turn red with greed. But this wasn't without a price. His partner Soul Spirity had fallen into a deep slumber, and it was unknown when she would awaken. Moreover, she had deceived the demon altar and taught Qin the spirit lock technique. This had already violated the will of the demon altar. Once it was discovered in the future, it would surely be a disaster. The summoned life, form undying, was also slumbering in the shadows. In the battle with the underworld great commander, he had suffered severe losses. Luckily, his condition was still stable. At this time, a strange fluctuation suddenly arrived. Qin could feel the repulsive strength of the infinite realm. Without resisting, he allowed this repulsive strength to envelop him. He knew that the infinite realm was about to close. Schwa, space twisted, and Qin figure vanished from sight. In the next moment, his entire body was wrapped in brilliant colors. Without accident, once his vision was restored, he would return to the land of divinity and demons. Immortal Sect Cultivator encampment. When the repulsive strength of the infinite realm arrived, Wenren Dongyue smiled. He lifted a hand, and a jade scepter appeared. It emitted a dark light that drew in all the repulsive strength, forming an array formation around the camp. Junior brothers and sisters, let's go. He stepped into the array formation first. Ning Ling and the other immortal sect disciples followed behind. The array formation flashed. Together with the jade scepter, all the immortal sect disciples were transported away. Far away, in a blood-colored lake, Wuma Sijan coldly opened his eyes and glanced at the sky above him. After he left the nine-realm Holy Land, he had coincidentally stumbled upon this lake of blood. It was extremely beneficial to his cultivation of the demonic path's mystic arts, but unfortunately, 2 months was far too short time. Let's go. Wuma Sijan flew out from the blood lake. A black robe condensed around him. He lifted a hand and punched out. Space directly shattered, collapsing inwards into a black channel. At the edges of this channel, countless demonic runes flowed about, smoothing out the chaotic power of space and forming a stable and orderly transmission path. And these demonic runes were exactly the same as the runes on a black ring on Wuma Sijan's finger. Whoosh, whoosh, the demonic path cultivators flew in, and the black channel rapidly vanished. The mottled colors in front of him rapidly shook. But at this time, a strange fluctuation swept over Qin. In the next moment, a giant face appeared in the skies of the infinite realm. Its eyelids violently trembled, as if it were using up a great deal of strength to open them. Rest Loam, a deep and low sound emerged from its mouth. As it spread out in all directions, it turned into rumbling thunderclaps. A silent tremor swept through the entire infinite realm along with the sound of thunder, forcefully breaking apart the transmission that was in progress. The mottled colors in front of Qin rapidly collapsed. He stuffily coughed and fell to the ground. He looked around and discovered that he was still in the infinite realm. His complexion immediately became ugly. He could clearly sense that strange fluctuation just now. It had only swept past him for a moment, but he felt as if he had been completely seen through. At this time, Qin Yu's complexion changed. Without hesitation, his thoughts stirred and he instantly vanished, entering the token space. Bang! A boundless consciousness instantly arrived. It had clearly discovered the spatial token, but after a moment of silence, it actually chose to retreat. Within the token space, Qin Yu's arrival had alarmed Tuba and Tutu. They hurried over to greet him. Qin Yu's complexion was dignified. As the master of the token, he could clearly feel the boundless consciousness that had arrived from the outside world. This consciousness fluctuation was vast and grand, but it was also cold and indifferent, as well as a bit stiff. Qin Yu's pupils shrank. This was the consciousness of the infinite realm's rules. Or it could be said that this was the last remaining will of the broken world of the infinite realm. Qin Yu's thoughts raced. If what he said before was just a guess, then he could now confirm that the reason why the transmission had suddenly stopped was because of him. The infinite realm's rules wouldn't target him for no reason. Qin Yu soon guessed that it was related to the rest loan he gave to the little blue lamp. After all, this thing had the powerful effect of repairing a world. If the infinite realm's rules could obtain it and fuse the rest loam into the infinite realm, then even if it couldn't restore the entire world, it could at least extend its existence. Thinking of this, Qin Yu began to worry. Even if it was only the will of this broken world, it wasn't something he could contend with. But now, Qin Yu had no other choice. He bitterly smiled. Indeed, there were gains and losses. If it weren't for the rest loam, how could he have been targeted by the infinite realm's will? Within the infinite realm, Qin Yu had no chance of escaping. In fact, as long as the infinite realms will wish for it, it could keep him here forever. Thinking of this, Qin Yu's complexion became even uglier. Suddenly, Qin Yu's eyes lit up with surprise. This was because he could clearly feel that the infinite realms had vanished. Had it lured him out, or had it given up? Qin Yu's eyes were cloudy and uncertain. He said in a low voice, "If there's an accident, I will summon the two of you. Be careful." Tuba and Tuta nodded. Their bones crackled and billowed with blood energy. It was clear they were prepared to risk their lives. Qin Yu clenched his teeth. His thoughts stirred, and his figure instantly vanished. He was well aware that if the infinite realms wasn't willing to let him go, there would be no chance for him to escape. Unless he could last until the infinite realm collapsed. Waiting 100 years was no different from leaving now. Shua. Qin Yu appeared where he was, his back as taut as a bow. But after waiting for a moment, the infinite realms still hadn't arrived. Had it given up? Qin Yu thought for a moment. He thought that it was likely that his status as the nine-realm Holy Land Saint Son had played a role here. Who? He let out a long breath. It was only then that he discovered that his robes were soaked in a cold sweat and his back was sticking to his body. His blood energy revolved and his robes became dry again. Qin Yu sent a sound transmission to the token to cancel the alarm. He looked around, a look of hesitation on his face. The transmission had been interrupted. Although the infinite realms hadn't arrived, how could he leave? Suddenly, a boundless spatial fluctuation came from the distance. Qin Yu's complexion changed. He stepped forwards and raced towards the source of the fluctuation. Soon, Qin Yu's face lit up with joy. He shouted out loud, "Fellow Taoists, please wait a moment." In front of him, two people came to a sudden stop, vigilance on their faces. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. When I was about to leave, the transmission was suddenly interrupted. I wonder if you two were also the same? One of them sensed Qin Yu's aura and his complexion relaxed. He said, "The two of us were also the same." He didn't dare to show any contempt on his face. To be able to last until the infinite realm closed and not appear distressed at all, unless they had been hiding all this time or their luck was heaven-defying. There was no one easy to deal with. The other person invited, "The two of us were about to head towards the spatial fluctuations." fellow Taoist, should also be going the same way. So how about we go together? Qin hesitated for a moment and then nodded. That's fine. The three people walked together. They constantly encountered other cultivators along the way. After asking them, they learned that the transmission had been interrupted. Qin relaxed a little. It seemed that it wasn't just them. If so, then the situation could still be salvaged. But as he heard the curses of the people around him, he revealed a bit of helplessness. He thought that if these people knew that the transmission was interrupted because of him, they would definitely turn hostile. The group grew larger and larger until there were over 30 people. But everyone was wary of each other and wary of each other. Qin got along well with the first two people he met. Through their conversation, he learned that these two people came from the Central Mountain Nation's Great Equipment Pagoda sect. Most of the cultivators in the pavilion were skilled in refining artifacts and had a certain level of fame. As for Qin, he casually said a few words to weave an identity for himself. The two Equipment Pagoda cultivators didn't care too much about it and didn't reveal any flaws. Suddenly, there was a cry of alarm from the front of the group. Qin glanced at the two Equipment Pagoda cultivators, and then both sides sped up. Soon, a giant spatial gate appeared in front of them. The outline of this gate had already appeared, but it hadn't completely condensed yet. A cultivator skilled in spatial array formations carefully stepped forwards to examine it. Soon, they obtained news that left them pleasantly surprised. This spatial gate was connected to the land of divinity and demons. I knew that it was impossible for the infinite realm to let us stay here. They would definitely give us a chance to leave. Although the infinite realm is good, it is far too dangerous. Moreover, the rules here aren't complete. It is not a place to stay for long. Haha, once the spatial gate is complete, you and I can leave this place. Qin face lit up with a smile. But soon, he was stunned for a moment before revealing a look of excitement. Looking around, he could see cultivators gathering from all directions. In addition, he could only sense violent spatial fluctuations in front of him. In other words, this was the only spatial gate in the entire infinite realm. Ningling would also come here. Thinking of this, Qin couldn't help but laugh out loud. He never imagined that after searching for so long, he would finally obtain what he wanted. Chapter 4:03. At this time, how could Qin have any thoughts of paying attention to these two people? His eyes widened with anticipation as he looked around. More and more cultivators arrived at the spatial gate. Gradually, there was a hubbub of voices. But he still didn't see Ningling arrive. Qin was secretly worried. Could the immortal sect have some method to break through the infinite realm's rules and forcefully leave? As Qin was frowning, a cry of alarm rang out, interrupting his thoughts. Demonic path cultivators. There were numerous demonic cultivators in the land of divinity and demons, but the only ones that could cause such a reaction were the unsurpassed demonic path that stood above the world and overlooked the boundless world. Wuma Sijan stepped into the void. He frowned, slaughter energy tumbling around him. His every movement overflowed with a domineering aura that swept out in all directions. The demonic cultivators behind him all had tyrannical auras. An invisible aura rose up and massive demonic clouds formed above their heads. Countless demon phantoms appeared, all of them emitting mournful roars. As these roars entered the ears of those with weaker cultivations, they felt a chill in their hearts and their fear soar. Demonic might blotted out the heavens. Qin revealed a dignified expression. He could feel the terrifying aura contained within the body of the demonic path's leader. Although this person was only at the peak of divine soul, his true strength had reached an inconceivable level. He could be called the strongest divine soul he had ever seen. A cold light flashed in Wuma Sijan's eyes. He looked down at the ground. Qin heart skipped a beat. He didn't think this person would be so vigilant. He quickly lowered his head to avoid the attack. Wuma Sijan's gaze fell on Qin, a thoughtful look in his eyes. At this time, his eyebrows shot up and he looked into the distance. He coldly said, "You people always have a bad habit of coming out last. I really hate it." His voice was thick and cold. As it spread through the air, the temperature of the surrounding space began to rapidly fall. "Wuma Sijan, I know you are in a bad mood, but the name of my immortal sect is not something you have the qualifications to blaspheme." With a calm and steady voice, a group of cultivators stepped forwards. Their sleeves fluttered in the wind. The men were handsome and the women were beautiful, their bearing like that of immortals. In particular, the man at the front was slender and incomparably handsome. His eyes were incomparably bright, as if they could contain everything within them. Wuma Sijan sneered. He looked up, and their gazes collided. Their gazes collided, and the void trembled, stirring up strong winds. An invisible suppressive aura spread out in all directions, causing the cultivators to lower their heads and not dare to look directly at it. However, even though their gazes collided, it didn't affect Chinyu in the least. He looked at the immortal sect crowd and at that familiar figure. Her appearance hadn't changed at all, but her temperament had become even more ethereal and ethereal. Looking at that face that haunted his dreams, Chinyu smiled. "Ningling, I've finally found you." Amongst the immortal sect cultivators, Ningling frowned. Senior apprentice Brother Wenrin and Wuma Sijan were fighting, but there were actually people watching her from the ground. She was already used to this kind of thing, but the gaze from below had been on her for too long. Ningling took a deep breath, her eyes cold and indifferent. She naturally had her own methods to make this lecher suffer a bit. In the next moment, two pairs of eyes met. Ningling could clearly see a smiling figure standing in the crowd. Her body stiffened and her eyes widened. Ningling covered her mouth and blinked several times, finally determining that this wasn't an illusion. In that instant, Ningling's memories flew far away. Her thoughts blurred as countless scenes flowed through her mind. She thought of East Streamtown, of that young man who had peeped at her skirt but had remained calm. She thought of the calm, black-robed figure who had faced the demonic path cultivators. She thought of the Eastern Mountain sect, of how he had indifferently faced the endless taunts. She thought of the danger at Western Pass City, of how he had pretended to break through the enemy. She thought of the road back to the sect, of how he had calmly responded to the robbers. She thought of the peaceful scenery on the road home with him. She thought of Black Sky Demon's crazy pursuit, of how he hadn't abandoned her. She thought of the black robe that had covered her when she had woken up from unconsciousness. She thought of the Ning family's underground palace, of the figure that had appeared in front of her when she had fallen into despair and helplessness. She thought of the words that the immortal sect envoy had said, "The land of divinity and demons?" "Senior apprentice Sister Ning, just go. No matter how far you go, I will find you. I have to know where Senior apprentice Sister Ning is going so that I can find you in the future. I understand. Senior apprentice Sister Ning, just wait for me." Tears blurred her eyes. She had always been anxious to hear these words, but after entering the immortal sect, she could only suppress them in the deepest depths of her heart. This was because Ningling knew that Chinyu wouldn't have the chance to come to the land of divinity and demons, nor would it be possible for him to go to the immortal sect to find her. But now, Chinyu had really come. Just as he had said before, he had appeared in front of her once more. Although she didn't know how much he had suffered, Ningling could imagine that Chinyu didn't have any foundation at all. If he wanted to enter the land of divinity and demons and come to the infinite realm, he would have to pay countless times more than she did. Ningling could even guess that the reason Chinyu had entered the infinite realm was to find her. Surging emotions gushed out from the depths of her heart. Ningling was no longer able to suppress them. She didn't want to resist them either. Her figure flashed, and she flew straight towards Chinyu. Although the land of divinity and demons was good, she was all alone, and there were countless covetous eyes staring at her. Dealing with this left her feeling haggard and tired. If it weren't for her powerful bloodline, she feared she would have already become the exclusive property of some immortal sect powerhouse. Loneliness, fear, oppression, all of these things had always shrouded Ningling. She could only use her cold and indifferent outer shell and display an even more outstanding performance to resist all of this. But now, Ningling discovered that her heart was still weak. When her eyes fell on Qin Yu, she subconsciously took him as her pillar of support. She had many things she wanted to say to him. She hoped that in the future, she would never be separated from Qin Yu again. There was a cry of alarm from the ground. Countless cultivators were shocked by the confrontation between Wenren Dongyue and Wuma Sijan. They subconsciously looked up, and their eyes widened, as if they had been struck by lightning. They froze where they were. They saw the most beautiful figure in the immortal sect fly over like a tired bird. Without any hesitation, she threw herself into the arms of a man. This scene created an intense psychological impact on them. Then, they inexplicably felt grief and indignation. To sum it up, there was only one question: why? This sort of fairy-like person should have flown above the highest heavens, her eyes indifferently overlooking the endless world and disdainfully disdainful of men made of dirt. So, how dare you hold her in your arms and hold her so tightly? Not too far away from the spatial gate, several cultivators were left dumbfounded. The scene in front of them left them unable to regain their composure for a long time. Su Wenzi said in a daze, "Master, truly worthy of being a master. I can only prostrate myself in admiration." A dark light flashed in Feng Yunyun's eyes. So he already had this sort of soulmate. Qin Hanshi smiled. He thought that this Qin Yu was truly amazing. Without saying anything, he had managed to capture the heart of an immortal sect fairy maiden. It was no wonder that he looked down on my cousin. He carefully looked at Ningling. There were tears of excitement on her face, as well as the joy that came from her heart. Even Qin Hanshi couldn't help but feel envious. To have such an unparalleled beauty, Brother Qin is truly blessed. Tianyin smiled. He knew that nothing would happen to Qin Yu. He still hadn't repaid the Titan tribe's life-saving graciousness. Beside him, Xiong Dailin carefully took a step back. She lowered her head and sighed inwardly. She really wanted to cry. They had clearly been about to leave the infinite realm, but who would have thought that the transmission would be stopped? Now, there's only a single spatial gate in the infinite realm. As expected, they had run into this evil star. "You can't see me. You can't see me. You can't see me." With everyone's eyes locked onto the peerlessly powerful Wenren Dongyue and Wuma Sijan, they both frowned, ill intent in their eyes. However, Wuma Sijan instantly composed himself. He said with a sound transmission, "Wenren Dongyue, it looks like someone has already beaten you to it. Congratulations." Killing intent flashed in Wenren Dongyue's eyes before he composed himself. He lightly said, "The immortal sect does not restrict disciples from associating with Tao companions. Junior apprentice Sister Ningling can choose for herself." Wuma Sijan laughed. "In terms of endurance, I admire you." Wenren Dongyue remained expressionless. Blue veins popped up on his forehead. He clenched his fists within his sleeves, his nails sinking into his palms. Deep in his heart, he had already regarded Ningling as his future Tao companion. Now that he saw her in the arms of another man, even someone as proud as Wenren Dongyue, his mood could be imagined. He wished he could tear Qin Yu to pieces. But he still maintained a calm expression. He casually turned his head and glanced at Shui Yuanling. Her complexion was pale, and she nodded imperceptibly, crying inwardly. When they were rushing towards the spatial gate, she had a foreboding premonition. Senior apprentice Brother Wenren had also thought of this, and had intentionally delayed for a while. But in the end, he hadn't been able to avoid it. And what worried Shui Yuanling the most was that she had once told Qin Yu that she didn't know Ningling. Once this matter was exposed, Ningling would surely distance herself from her. At that time, she would no longer have any value to her senior apprentice Brother Wenren. She feared that she would never be able to obtain any benefits from him again. The immortal sect disciples were shocked, disbelief in their eyes. The normally proud and indifferent junior apprentice Sister Ningling, who didn't care about any man, had actually thrown herself into the arms of a man on her own initiative. If they didn't see this with their own eyes, they would have never believed it. Jealousy, indifference, envy, icy coldness, and all sorts of other emotions filled their eyes. The female cultivator, surnamed Ding, revealed a happy expression. She glanced at Wenren Dongyue, thinking that with Ningling's performance, would senior apprentice brother be disappointed in her? If so, then perhaps she would have a chance. Yu Bai's complexion paled and his eyes were icy cold. He knew that he couldn't compare with Wenren Dongyue, so he had given up on attacking Ningling on his own initiative. But who was this person in front of him? How could he dare to hug the person he yearned for even in his dreams? His heart tumbled with rage, wishing that he could destroy everything in front of him. But at this time, he had no reason to vent his anger. He nearly suffered internal injuries. At this time, Yu Bai discovered that beside him, an immortal sect disciple revealed a look of hatred, fear, and worry. In the blink of an eye, Yu Bai recalled that this disciple had complained to him not too long ago that he had been humiliated by a cultivator and that even his guardian had been severely wounded. In the end, the guardian had perished because of some other danger. Yu Bai's eyes brightened. He carefully thought back to this immortal sect disciple's name. His lips moved, and he sent a sound transmission. Junior apprentice brother Maidu, the person you mentioned to me some time ago, could it be this person? Maidu's complexion changed, reporting to senior apprentice brother Yu Bai. I'm not too sure. Yu Bai was overjoyed. Since this person said this, then he wasn't wrong. His thoughts raced. He knew that this person feared Ningling and thus didn't dare to speak frankly. His voice slowed down, and he lightly said, Junior apprentice brother Maidu, don't blame me for not reminding you. A great opportunity is right in front of you. You must not let it go. Maidu's eyes brightened. I asked senior apprentice brother to help me. Yu Bai said, senior apprentice brother Wenren is interested in junior apprentice sister Ningling. If you can identify this cultivator and judge him as an enemy of my immortal sect and ruin his chances of being together with junior apprentice sister Ningling, then senior apprentice brother Wenren will naturally give you benefits in the future. You can think about this yourself. If you're willing to do it, senior apprentice brother will help you. Of course, I also hope to take advantage of this opportunity to express my goodwill to senior apprentice brother Wenren. Maidu's heart heated up. He clenched his teeth. In any case, what he said was the truth. With senior apprentice brother Wenren's protection, even if he provoked Ningling, she still might not be able to deal with him. He looked at Yu Bai and nodded. Chapter 404. Qin Yu tightly held onto her soft and delicate body, smelling the fragrance she exuded. At this time, there was no distracting thought in his heart, only joy and unprecedented peace. He had struggled to survive in his youth, and it was only because of Auntie Gu's pity that he was able to continue living. Besides Ling he didn't have a single relative in this world. When Qin Yu was weak, Ningling had walked into his heart and left behind an unerasable mark in the deepest depths of his heart. He had long regarded Ningling as a second family member. When they met again in the Gold Noble family, no one knew just how overjoyed Qin Yu was. For the first time, he sincerely thanked the heavens. But after a short period of time, just as the two of them had expressed their feelings to each other, Ningling had been brought to the land of divinity and demons by cultivators from the immortal sect. If it weren't for Yu Qi's help, it would have been impossible for the two of them to meet again. When they parted, Qin Yu's expression was calm and steady, filled with confidence. But there was also a bit of restlessness in his heart. He feared that he would never be able to enter the land of divinity and demons, and he feared that when he arrived, after an unknown number of years, Ningling would already have a Dao companion. But now, all of these worries and fears vanished like snow under the scorching sun. Ningling had used her actions to soothe Qin Yu's mood. Hugging her, Qin Yu felt as if he possessed the entire world. All of the dangers and hardships he encountered along the way weren't worth mentioning at all. Ningling, I'm here, he slowly said. He suppressed his emotions, fearing that he would reveal the least bit of weakness in front of her. But Ningling could hear the trembling in his voice. Her tears flowed, even faster. I'm sorry. Chinyu, I'm sorry. I was too selfish. Chinyu patted her back. It's not your fault. I know you have your difficulties, and I'm already here, aren't I? Ningling nodded. Chinyu smiled. Although I want to keep hugging you, there are too many people here. If this continues, I fear that some people won't be able to help themselves and rush up to hit me. Ningling giggled, her tear-stained face causing Qin Yu's eyes to widen. Her charm left him stunned, and his eyes widened. Ningling's face flushed red. She whispered, "You're not allowed to look." She took a step back from his chest. As she felt the countless shocked gazes around her, she couldn't help but blush even more. But she still stayed close to Qin Yu, unwilling to leave. Wenren Donghua coughed. "Junior apprentice sister Ningling, may I ask who this is?" Looking at her bashful expression, his heart felt even heavier. However, his expression became even calmer, and the corners of his mouth even revealed a faint smile. On the other side, Wuma Sijan curled his lips and cursed him for being a hypocrite. Ningling bowed. Reporting to senior apprentice brother Wenren, he is an old friend of mine from long ago. I never thought I would meet him in the infinite realm today. Although Wenren Dongyue's expression was natural, Qin Yu could still feel a trace of hostility from him. With a quick thought, he could guess the reason. A sharp light flashed in his eyes, and he said, "Qin Yu greets fellow Taoist Wenren." As he spoke, he grabbed the soft hand beside him. Ningling was startled. She immediately understood Qin Yu's thoughts and glared at him, but she didn't pull her hand back. This naked declaration of sovereignty caused Wenren Dongyue's breathing to catch for a moment. His face stiffened for a brief moment before he lightly said, "So that's how it is." As he was thinking about how to deal with the situation in front of him, there was a roar of grief and indignation from the Immortal Sect group. "It's you!" Whoosh! A figure flew out. His eyes were red and filled with hatred as he stared at Qin Yu, his body shivering. Yubai praised. Although this Maidu's cultivation was sloppy and ordinary, his acting skills weren't bad at all. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I have already given you an excuse. What happens next will depend on you." Looking over from the corner of his eyes, he saw Wenren Dongyue's eyes brighten. Deep in Yubai's heart, a trace of excitement rose up. A good show was about to begin. As an old member of the Immortal Sect, he had heard of senior apprentice brother Wenren's methods. As expected, Wenren Donghua frowned. He scolded, "Junior apprentice brother Maidu. This fellow Taoist is junior apprentice sister Ningling's good friend. You cannot be insolent." He didn't stop Maidu and only casually reprimanded him. This caused Maidu's heart to calm down and his voice to become even more pained. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, it isn't that I don't understand the bigger picture and want to offend junior apprentice sister Ningling's good friend, but this Qin Yu has gone too far." He looked up at the skies, tears rolling down his cheeks. "When I was walking through the infinite realm, I encountered this person and was injured for no reason. He even plotted against my protector, causing him to perish. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, everything Maidu says is true. I ask senior apprentice brother to uphold justice for me." Whoosh! The Immortal Sect disciples were in an uproar. Most of them had extraordinary backgrounds, and after entering the Immortal Sect, they were prides of heaven. As they walked through the world, it was always others who bowed their heads to them. When had they ever been bullied by others? Moreover, an Immortal Sect cultivator had died. How arrogant! He injured a disciple of my Immortal Sect, and even caused the death of a protector. This is an unforgivable crime. He must pay the price for offending the dignity of my Immortal Sect. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. This is a matter of the heavens and earth. The ones roaring out were mostly male disciples. They had long since found Qin Yu displeasing to the eye. Now that they had a chance, how could they miss it? Wenren Donghua frowned, a bright light in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "Junior apprentice brother Maidu, this is no trifling matter. Do not speak nonsense." Maidu was filled with grief and indignation. "I know that junior apprentice sister Ningling has an honored status, But when it comes to the dignity of my immortal sect and the death of a protector and protector, how could I dare to act recklessly? He lifted a finger and roared out, Chinyu, did you injure me? Did you plot against my immortal sect's protector and protector? Ningling's complexion changed. She never thought that the situation would suddenly reverse. She looked at him with an anxious expression. Chinyu's silence caused her heart to sink. She hurriedly said, Chinyu, there must be a misunderstanding here. Speak up, and senior apprentice brother Wenren will help you clarify this. Wenren Dongwen nodded. That's right. My immortal sect will not let go of any enemy, but we will not wrongly accuse any good person either. Fellow Taoist Chinyu, please speak the truth. Ningling revealed a grateful look. Chinyu patted her hand. He slowly said, That's right. I did have a dispute with Maidu and injured him and the people around him. However, this matter is not what Midas said. I didn't attack for no reason. Then, he explained the cause and effect of that day. I already knew that Ningling had joined the Immortal Sect, so why would I attack your Immortal Sect disciples? This matter doesn't make sense at all. Ningling's heart relaxed. She nodded. Senior Apprentice Brother Wenrun, I believe what Chinyu said. I fear that this matter was caused by someone trying to complain. Maidu subconsciously revealed a trace of fear as her cold eyes swept over him. But with things having come to this point, there was no longer any room for him to retreat. He sadly said, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, I admit that the way I conduct myself is a bit arrogant, but I've been taught by the Immortal Sect for many years and I would never do such a thing. This person is speaking nonsense and even wants to slander me and the protector that died. I asked Senior Apprentice Brother to investigate this matter. Yubai took a step forward. He said in a low voice, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, I have some friendship with Junior Apprentice Brother Maidu, and I am well aware of his character. He would never do something so wild and arrogant. His eyes turned cold, and his words had a double meaning. I asked Senior Apprentice Brother to thoroughly investigate this matter and restore Junior Apprentice Brother Maidu's innocence. If Maidu was innocent, then Chinyu was naturally lying. The Immortal Sect disciples naturally supported Maidu. As they heard this, their eyes were filled with icy hostility. Ningling took a deep breath. Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, Chinyu would never do something like this. Wenren Dongyue had a solemn expression. Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling, this matter involves the reputation of my immortal sect, so we cannot be careless. But I guarantee that I will thoroughly investigate this matter. His eyes fell. Fellow Taoist Chinyu, do you have any proof of what you say? Chinyu frowned. There were indeed some people that witnessed the entire process that day, but I don't know if they are willing to testify. Wenren Dongyue loudly said, Fellow Taoists, if anyone knows the truth of this matter, then please step forward and speak. I, Wenren Dongyue, guarantee that as long as what I say is true, the Immortal Sect will not pursue any responsibility. With the support of a formidable strength, his voice spread throughout the entire spatial gate. Su Wen's complexion was gloomy and uncertain. Beside him, Feng Yunyun revealed a moved expression. Protector Li grabbed her and shook his head with a solemn expression. In the silence, Wenren Dongyue revealed a cold intent. Fellow Taoist Chinyu, it looks like those people you spoke of aren't here. Yubai shouted out loud, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, this person must be making things up, otherwise how could there be such a coincidence that not a single witness is here? He cupped his hands together. I ask Senior Apprentice Brother to capture this person and take revenge for the cultivators of my immortal sect that died. Maidu fell to his knees. I ask Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren to uphold justice. Stirred up by these two people, the immortal sect disciples were stirred to action. Tyrannical auras erupted, locking onto Chinyu from afar. Wenren Dongyue lifted a hand and pressed down, his eyes becoming increasingly indifferent. Fellow Taoist Chinyu, if you don't have any other evidence, then I can only capture you. He turned and said, Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling, this matter involves the immortal sect's reputation as well as the lives and deaths of our disciples. I hope you can understand. Qin Yu's lips curved up in a mocking smile. So what if he was an immortal sect disciple? If he really wanted to falsely accuse him, did he really think he wouldn't have the strength to resist? That's right, Wenren Dongyue was indeed formidable. As an outstanding disciple of the immortal sect, he definitely had many methods at his disposal. But Qin Yu didn't fear him. Under the spirit-lock secret art, he could greatly increase the amount of time he could use the power of the burning heavens. In addition to the large success of the demon body and the throat-locking finger, he was confident he could bring Ning Ling away. The immortal sect was indeed powerful, but the land of divinity and demons had an infinite territory. If the two of them hid somewhere, would they really be able to find them? As if feeling the icy cold aura that Qin Yu released, Ning Ling tightened her grip. She said with a sound transmission, "Qin Yu, don't be impulsive." She was well aware of senior apprentice Brother Wenren's formidable strength. In the past, he had once cut down a revered Blue Sea Realm demonic cultivator by himself. How could Qin Yu resist? Seeing the worry in Ning Ling's eyes, Qin Yu thought about how she was still a disciple of the immortal sect. He took a deep breath and suppressed the chill in his heart. His eyes fell on a certain spot, and he lightly said, "Everyone, on that day, I helped you vent some of your anger. Do you really want to stare blankly on as I am framed?" Shwa, shwa. Countless eyes gathered on him. Su Wenze and the others stiffened, a bit of unnatural expression on their faces. As these expressions fell into everyone's eyes, they began to whisper inwardly. Maidu's eyes revealed a trace of panic. He could only grit his teeth and endure. Wuma Sijan laughed. How interesting, how interesting. Today was truly a wonderful show. If all of you look so flustered, I fear there must be some secret behind this, right? Wenren Dongyue shouted out loud. Wuma Sijan, this matter is of great importance. If you interfere without reason, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Wuma Sijan's eyes turned cold. He coldly stared back at Wenren Dongyue. As he felt the icy coldness in Wenren Dongyue's eyes, he frowned inwardly. He sneered and no longer spoke. He could see that Wenren Dongyue had taken a liking to Ning Ling. If he continued to tangle with him, he feared he really would erupt. Although he wasn't afraid, offending Wenren Dongyue for no reason wasn't a wise move. Su Wenze's forehead dripped with a cold sweat. He hesitated several times before finally lowering his head. The several people around him were panic-stricken. They nearly curled up into a ball. Yubai sneered. "Qin Yu, don't try to deny it anymore. These fellow Taoists clearly don't know you, so how can they testify for you? You've repeatedly evaded responsibility, so it's clear that you have a guilty conscience in your heart. I will capture you and interrogate you using the immortal sect's secret techniques. I will have you lower your head and admit your guilt." Qin Yu sighed inwardly. He looked at Ning Ling, an apologetic look in his eyes. It seemed that things had entered an irreversible situation. He looked up, an icy smile on his face. Just as he was about to attack, a voice suddenly echoed out. "I can testify that Qin Yu isn't lying." Feng Yunyun bit her lip, her face pale. Beside her, Protector Li bitterly smiled, worry in his eyes. Su Wenze fiercely looked up, his face shaking with disbelief. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.